Hello, how are you? Let's go. Drive time, Thursday afternoon, 14 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. It is legitimately cold today. It feels like fall. It's like the first really cold fall day. It was about 38 degrees and rainy this morning. It's a little warmer right now, about 48 degrees, but the rain and clouds are here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. But as it is every single day, it's good to have you along for the ride. Spence Checketts behind the mic, Porter Larson behind the glass today, producing the program. And, of course, we are inching closer and closer to what is shaping up to be a massive, massive Saturday night in Provo. Utah, BYU, Big 12 implications at stake. I've heard more than a few people say this could potentially be, I'll call it the most consequential rivalry game in the 100-plus year history of Utah, BYU. We'll go over the reasons today as to why that could potentially be the case. The line continues to stay very, very still, with Utah as a 3.5-point favorite. The forecast for Saturday night in Provo looks pretty good. We're talking about maybe 58, 60 degrees at kickoff and clear skies down in Provo, Utah. We have the early injury reports submitted by both coaches, kind of. I'm sure Kyle does not enjoy doing that every single week, but it looks like Jack Kelly is going to play for BYU. That's the most consequential piece of news coming out of the injury reports that were released yesterday. Jack Kelly is one of the best linebackers in the Big 12 and certainly will go a long way into BYU's task of trying to stop Devin Dampier. How will Jay Hill go about that? It's going to be interesting to see. Jay is a very smart defensive mind who is known for his in-game adjustments and his ability to schematically prepare at a very high level, and obviously we know that Morgan can do that as well. Morgan Scalley against Aaron Roderick, Jay Hill against Jason Beck, Kalani Sitake against Kyle Whittingham. Storylines all over the place, and we'll get to all of them today on the program on a Thursday afternoon edition. The Utah Mammoth had a fun home opener last night that saw a little bit of everything. Some really, really good goals, comeback, win, a bare-knuckle brawl, and fun night at Delta Center. The revamped Delta Center looks like it's going to be a really fun season for Utah Mammoth fans. We'll start our weekly hits with Neil Smith, Stanley Cup winning general manager, coming up in just a little bit as we are kind of high speed ahead to mostly just pro and college football on the show today. The Utah Jazz will finish their preseason action tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers. They're going to welcome in the Los Angeles Clippers here in Salt Lake next week, so pro basketball on the way as well. Dramatic scenes in St. Louis for RSL coming up on Saturday. It's pretty simple. Win and you're in. Tie and you need, I think, 3 or 4 things to go your way. And a loss will be the end of the season for RSL. So the lads, we're here for the lads. They're training this week before they travel up to St. Louis to try to get it done. Your week, man, is it week 8 of the NFL? You got to be kidding me. Is it really? I think it's week 7, but still. Your weekend of pro football begins tonight. It is week 7. It's the Steelers and the Bengals. Joe Flacco against Aaron Rodgers. So some geriatric quarterbacks under center tonight on Amazon Prime. And then a jam-packed Sunday ahead. We'll keep you up to date on all the injury news concerning some of the quarterback stuff. Not sure who's going to start for the Niners. Looks like Trey Hendrickson's going to be out tonight for the Bengals, so that's good news if you're a Steelers fan. All right, a lot to do on the show. Good guest list today. Stevenson Sylvester will stop by right out of the gates, one of the best to ever do it at the University of Utah. Gets Live's take on the rivalry game coming up, Utah-BYU. Danny Cannell. How about Danny Cannell on a jam-packed Thursday show? We'll talk big picture college football. My former radio partner, Gordon Monson, may be live in studio. We'll see. Gordon stops by. We'll get a little RSL with Pablo Mastroeni. And then, as we are wont to do every Thursday, some sports court with our good friends at Handy and Handy. Stevenson Sylvester, Danny Cannell, Gordon Monson, Pablo Mastroeni, Sports Court, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners. And that guy, Porter Larson, Thursday rivalry week. So at this point, I was talking to Sean about this during Crosstalk. It's rare when you do a 4-hour radio show that there really is just one topic. But this week there really kind of is just one topic. I mean, we're going to bring Pablo in. We'll do some RSL. I think that dynamic, like I woke up this morning, I'm like, it must be Friday. The game's tomorrow.
No.
I think I'm just ready for the game.
You got to get some patience. It's a virtue here.
Are you ready? I'm just ready for it. Like, you know, all the anticipation, How many times can we regurgitate the same takes about the angles for both teams? I'm just ready for the game. I'm ready for it.
And the best part about this rivalry, we can talk about the cheerleader fighting the fan, the linebacker fighting the fan in the stands, the guy in suspenders confronting Bronco. Like, there's just so much off the field that is awesome about this rivalry. The frozen banana.
A new angle that was revealed this week.
A very old angle.
Yeah.
Coming from the grassy knoll somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Frozen banana.
Back and to the left.
But the best part of this rivalry is on the field. 19 finishes, one score or less in the last 30 years. It is the most between FBS matchups, not just rivalry matchups, most in the FBS between two teams. 19 in the last 30 years have been decided by 8 points or less. The best part of this rivalry is on the field, so let's get to it. Let's do it.
One thing here, what I did not have on my bingo card was Heidi Hatch having no chill this week. What is going on with that?
I love it.
Heidi Hatch, a good friend over at KUTV.
Holy Ward gets clicks.
She's an
and views.
anchor for the news, and all she's done all week is tweeting out, like, trying to rile people up online. What is Heidi Hatch doing this week?
She knows the job. She knows the week. She knows the market, Spence.
She sure does.
No one cares about the news in Salt Lake City and in Provo this week. I hate to say it. It's the truth. They're just trying to watch football this weekend.
Heidi Hatch has gone from tweeting about, like, political violence to, like, Utah's run game in 1 week. It's been wild.
And it'll go back the next, and that's 2025 for you.
All right, our first guest on a Thursday, Stevenson Sylvester. But before Sly stops by, courtesy of our good friends and your good friends, too, at Prize Picks, it's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
All right, football season, of course, is here, but basketball season is right around the corner, and Prize Picks is your best place to get the opportunity to win money on either football or basketball, whether you're a Jazz fan, a Knicks fan, a Warriors fan, or a Lakers fan. Prize Picks is the best way to win cash. So Prize Picks right now is offering stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. If you want to pick more on Steph Curry's points, 3-pointers, and assists, now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. You can follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, you can hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. If you follow me and we get the picks wrong, do not direct message me that you're mad that you lost $5. However, what you can do is download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. It is good to be right. They're offering a max discount on Steph Curry for the Warriors-Lakers game on the 21st of this month. More or less, Steph Curry, 0.5 points. My guess is Steph will score 1 point in that game. So get the free money and then take advantage of it and go grab the stacks over the max discount over Steph Curry on Prize Picks. All right, we are just a couple of days away, and the storylines continue to be all over the place. I've heard more than a few people, including Joel Klatt from Fox Sports, call the Utah BYU game the most consequential, biggest game in the 102-year history of this rivalry. So a couple things here. The bottom line is this. The Big 12 as a conference is still most likely to only get one team in the CFP. The CFP committee told us all we needed to know last year about their opinion concerning the Big 12. But there is a scenario in play. If Texas Tech is as good as we think that they are, and I think it's time to call them potentially one of the best teams in college football, not just one of the best teams or the best team of the Big 12, if they're as good as we think they are, their schedule really lines up favorably. Okay, they're at ASU this weekend. I think Sam Leavitt will play in that game. And, you know, they get BYU at home. They'll be on the road at Kansas State, not near the team we thought that they would be. So it's a tough test for them coming up against Arizona State. But Utah smokes ASU, and Tech took care of Utah. Tech's a healthy favorite on the road. The hardest game they'll have the rest of the season is probably Brigham Young, but that is at home. The most likely scenario is Tech ends the season undefeated. barring a catastrophic run of injuries. But what that does is it opens up the door for both BYU and Utah to potentially roll into an opportunity where, maybe you have one loss. And then if you play Tech with one loss, I think so if Utah goes 11-1, if Utah wins on Saturday and they go 11-1, I think even if they lose to Tech a second time, Utah is in the CFP. Now, if BYU beats Utah and if they're able to, enter the Big 12 championship scenario even with one loss, because they will see Tech at Texas Tech, I think it's the same thing. I think an 11-2 BYU team that's lost to Tech twice or an 11-2 Utah team that's lost to Tech twice joins Texas Tech in the CFP. That's what makes Saturday night just massive as far as the implications. If you can qualify for the college football playoff, it does change the scope of your program. It's more exposure. Recruiting goes through the roof. This is a massive, massive deal. Look, even in the years where both Utah and BYU stink or one team stinks and the other is good, it's still a massive Saturday night. But with all of the stakes that are really on the line, it makes this game huge. There's no other way to put it. It'll be compelling theater if you're there in person. But if you want to watch it on television, you should make the switch to Dish. See what I did there? 801-424-DISH, 801-424-DISH. And live in studio is Ryan from the Dish Pros. Hello, Ryan. How are you, sir?
Hey. Great to be here. This is fun being in studio today.
It's a new thing. I usually go out to your spot, but it's great to see you. You excited for the game? It's a big one Saturday night.
Very,
yeah.
Super excited. It's going to be biggest sporting event in Utah.
Yeah, and it is every year, but obviously with everything we just outlined, it makes it even bigger, and hopefully a lot of people are heading down there. But for the people that want to watch it on television, as I say every time we talk to you, if you're a sports fan and you don't have Dish, you're just doing it wrong. So how can we help people make this switch, and why is today a good day to call?
Well, today we're doing a little extra special since I'm in studio with you. We got a little extra money from Dish, and so we've got $100 cash back. So if you get set up today, this is a great opportunity to take advantage of the 2-year offer, and we're going to throw $100 cash back, throw 3 months of Dish's top package in for free, plus how about Paramount Plus, Showtime, and the NFL Red Zone free for the next 4 months. You get that, and that promotion's going away. So this is your opportunity to call today and take advantage of the extras.
The other nice thing that I always talk about is this 2-year price guarantee. As a former consumer of another platform, I can't even tell you every 2-3 months, it's like, hey, your bill is now $10 more. It's like, oh, what did I get? Oh, nothing. It's just more now.
Yeah.
So the 2-year price guarantee is also something we need to hammer home.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, DirecTV just did a $11 a month rate increase, and we've got cable doing rate increases, and we know there's one coming for YouTube TV, and it's already cheaper to switch to Dish. You get the 3 months free, you get the price guarantee, and you just don't have to worry. Next 2 years, price is going to be the same, and we'll come out and do the install for free and throw in $100 if you call today.
Yeah, if you call today, you get $100 cash back on top of all the promotions. But if you add it all up per month, you're saving $40, $50, $60, $70 just on the television offer. And if we add the internet offer, Ryan, it actually even goes up more.
Yeah, internet is something we've really dug our heels in, worked really hard. I've got a ton of ISPs now under our wing, and the price you get from us is the same price you would get if you call them directly. So it's a simple solution. You can call us up, and we'll lay out all the internet options you have, all the prices, and really, if you're spending more than $70 a month, or if your internet is just not reliable, if the wife and kids aren't happy, then you probably should call. Let's make that better for you.
Yep, you combine the internet offer and the potential of switching to Dish to save money. We're talking about real money every single month. The compound interest added up over time will help you pay other bills or put food on the table. So today's the day to call because you get an extra $100 cash back. Our friends at the Dish Pros at 801-424-DISH, 801-424-DISH. That's 801-424-3474. Ryan, good to see you.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, Stevenson Sylvester, our first guest on a Thursday right here on ESPN 700. You've created a Pavlovian response in my head to this song. I feel like I'm about to interview Pablo.
I messed up too because we have Pablo. We have Pablo today.
Oh, it's all good. We can play it twice. It's a phenomenal bump.
I don't know. I don't know if we can do that.
No, we can do it. Come on, man.
No.
We can do it. In my head, I feel like I'm about to talk soccer, but I'm not. Unless Stevenson Sylvester wants to break down the current state of the U.S. men's national team. Sly, what do you think, bud?
That is something I have absolutely no idea about. So, no, I'll pass.
Okay, fair enough. Well, nobody wants to hear about that this week anyway, as you know. I've been asking all of my Ute guests, my BYU guests, the alums, just what is this week like for you, Sly? When you know that it's coming and then the Monday lands and it's rivalry week, what are the emotions like for you as somebody who played in this game?
Man, it's crazy because I think it's really sinking in, the further and further I'm out for it, because I get so pumped for this game and I'm not even playing. Right. And so that's how you know how emotionally locked in you are and what this means. It just has so much depth behind it, this game. And I just love it. I love it what it does for the state. I love what it does for the teams and the pride that's cared for it. It doesn't matter what conference you're in, non-conference you're in, whatever it is, what state your team is at. That when this game is played, it just means so much. And I love it because it gives just a lot of people, you always need something, right? I feel like I need competition in my life, and I feel like this is competition no matter what it is. I love talking to BYU fans and talking smack, and we all have the same sentiments. I wish you well, except for this Holy War game, and so that's this week. So it just means so much to so many people, and especially me, man. I absolutely love it. The conversations that I have, the arguments with kids that I have. Yes, I still argue with kids. It's just fun. It's fun.
Wait. I've got to follow up on that final statement. Who are these children you are arguing with? And where do you run into kids, Sly, that you're arguing with?
Well, I wear my Utah Man gear everywhere, right? Yeah, and so, man, I'm doing high school football out in Tooele, and these couple kids come by and they say, "What's up with all the red?" And so it just started a back and forth with me and this kid. And next, he's on his scooter. He got to be like 7 years old or whatever he was. And he's like, well, we're still undefeated. And I'm like, "We'll just wait till next week, punk." And anyway, it was just fun. And he was on a scooter, and I wanted to do my best Big Daddy impression and throw a stick out in front of his scooter like he was doing on the rollerblades. And I don't know. It's just it's good fun. The kids laughed. I laughed. It was good.
Sly, do not harm the children this week, okay? Stay away from that dynamic. We need you ready to roll for this weekend. So just keep it above board, will you?
Oh, I'll be good. I got good. I can hold myself back.
All right, buddy. All right, so let's dig into it. It's really interesting. And I wanted to ask you this first because we had A-Rod on the show yesterday.
Oh, that's my guy.
Yeah, he's the best. And he's been a part of 21 rivalry games altogether. And I asked him, I said, "Do you know your record?" And he didn't hesitate. He said 14-7. He knew right away. So I've got to ask you, how many games did you play in, and what was your record against BYU?
Man, it's I have a horrible record. I am 1-3. So I played 4 games. It's literally the only years that BYU won because we won the 4 years prior to that. And then we won 9 years after that, 9 times after that. So I'm in the 06 to 09 years. So we lost in 06, lost in 07. We got the Harleen in 06. We got the 4th and 18 in 07. And then we got the turnover party that we won in 08. And then 09 is the double overtime or the overtime snafu down there at LaVell Edwards Stadium, man. So I am 1-3, unfortunately.
That's right. I remember all of those games. So you were part of this matchup the last time these two teams were ranked in the top 25. It's really weird, Sly. This is only the 4th time in the history of this game these two teams have been ranked. And with how great both these programs are, that seems like a really low number. Now, Dr. Hill was in studio on Monday and made a good point. Back in the day, it was near the end of the season, if not the last game of the season, and it's harder to be ranked after, a bunch of different games have been played. But this feels really consequential coming up on Saturday night for a number of different reasons. Namely, both teams are really good. Both teams are in the mix to win a Big 12 championship. And then we've got Fox Big Noon in town. It's a primetime kickoff slate at 6 o'clock on Fox. It might be the most watched game in the history of this rivalry. Just how big does Saturday night feel to you right now?
It means so much, right? Because there's a lot behind it, right? There were so many years where BYU was in a non-conference. The only reason BYU jumped out of the Mountain West is because Utah wasn't in it anymore, and they felt like they're on the same plane as us. And as competitors go, that makes a lot of sense. And so they had some down years because not being in a conference, recruiting is not what it needs to be. And so now they're in the Big 12, and now we're in the Big 12. And this has conference implications. This has college football implications. I think there's so many things on the line for this game. There's only been one or two games in the past that had this type of, narrative behind it, right? And so there's just so many. You got to you could go down the line from each offense, the coordinators, the coaches' relationship here, from how many BYU coaches are at Utah, how many Utah coaches are at BYU, that relationship from there, the true freshman quarterback after Retzloff, stuff in the offseason. Their offense is gelling well with a guy who's barely legal. And he looks great. 230-pound quarterback. They call him the Centaur. That by itself is a whole story on its own, leaving the 6-0 top 15 ranked team. And then you got Utah, who's just trying to get back from the last 2 years. The last 2 years have been awful at Utah, but they're looking good. They new offense, new running quarterback. They're leading the nation in a lot of different stats, and they're coming off of a 40-point ball game against a quality opponent. BYU emotionally. I mean, there's just so many things. The same type of defense. Utah's defense is legendary. BYU's defense is status quo. Special teams there, like, where is the edge for anybody in this game? And so I just don't think that the narratives have been what it has been, and that's why this game is so important and so huge. And bragging rights, as I said, I love talking smack. It's either blue or red in the state. You go to the store, I tell you, I do make a face every time I see somebody with BYU gear on. Whether it's on their car or they have a polo or some kid is wearing some hat, I make a little stank face, and I haven't played in 15 years. So I mean, man, it's through and through, man. It'll probably be like that for life, and that's why I love this rivalry.
Sly, I gotta say, you still look like you could play linebacker in the NFL when you are mad dogging BYU fans around town. Like, if you mad dogged me, I would be terrified. How do people respond with somebody who's built like you? Really mad dogging them if they're wearing BYU gear. I mean, do people run and hide? How does that work?
No, because I don't know. I'm not as tough as it may seem, man. I love competition. I love having conversations with BYU fans. So oftentimes they know who I am and they talk to me. And as I said, like, we have conversations. It's like they wish you well outside of this week, man. So it's not like a mean mad dog. It's kind of like, I'm making a face, fix your face type of thing. And then I changed after that point. But I appreciate that. Tell my wife that. She thinks I'm washed up. So, I'd like to go put on a helmet. I told Sharif, if he needs somebody, holler at me. I'll be on the sidelines.
Man, if you're washed, I don't want to know what I am at the age of 47. But let's let me move over to this dynamic, because we had Whit on yesterday as well. And, as I was introducing him, I said, man, this is such a fun week. And he said, wait, did you say fun? And I said, okay, give me the Whit adjective. And he said, oh, it's intense.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, I find this balance really interesting when it comes to someone like you who played in it, because you want to understand the magnitude of how big this game is. You want to meet the moment, but you don't want to be so psychotic about being jacked up that you forget your assignment, right? So, like, right. How do you dance that dance all week long when practices are intense? The coaching staff has a different energy, and then prior to kick, you're in that stadium, you're hearing all of these horrible things the fans are saying to you, and like, what's the balance like between finding the right intensity and not getting overhyped and maybe making a mental error?
And that's going to be a lot of people who are new to the rivalry will have to adjust to, right? Everybody's like, why is everybody so wound up? Why is the city so crazy about this game? Why? Because they don't understand what it's like. I didn't really understand until after that '06 game. After that '06 game and Beck threw that stuff to Harleen, I'm on the sidelines, jaw dropped. I couldn't believe it. I was invested after that. I'm just like, I can't stand those guys, right? And having them celebrate at Rice Eccles was just, it's gut-wrenching, right? And so, like, going to practice, I think what you were saying is like finding that fine line of being too tight and being loose, right? A lot of guys were like, "Oh, you've done the preparation, just hang loose." But like when you're in this type of rivalry week, every single play, every step you take, it's intense. Every time you watch film, it's intense. You can watch just as much film as you do the other week, but the focus that you put into it just feels like it's that much more. Right, and it's hard, and I think that's why you have so many people, coaching, strength staff, training staff that's been a part of this rivalry. They've got to pay attention. They're like, okay, we got to watch this guy, dial him back, save your energy, conserve your energy. That was one thing that I thought was very interesting was getting ready for this game. The focus that Coach Witt and the coaches had on ramping you up right for game time, which is 6 p.m. You can't be ready at 10 a.m. You can't be ready at 1 a.m. You got to be ready at 6 p.m. or whenever the game time is to be able to go and execute. And there's so much preparation that goes into that with your intensity, with your ability to sleep, with your naps, with your meals. What type of meal are you eating? Something that's not too heavy. And football players are especially, I guess I can't speak for everybody, but I'm so superstitious. I have to do the exact same thing. My routine is just so locked in. And everything is just so intense. So it's kind of just fighting that healthy balance of being ready to execute by game time.
All right, now let's get into, because you referenced earlier just how similar these two teams are and how the coaches know each other and they both really want to do the same thing. And even most of the metrics, Sly, there are some areas where Utah, as far as the data goes, appears to be a superior team. And there are a few areas where BYU's been better than Utah. But the Utes are a slight favorite, even though it's on the road. I'll pose the question like this. Utah wins on Saturday night if they do what?
Oh, gosh. I've been so focused this week on how similar everybody is. I think you got to ride the wave of adversity. And this is going for both teams because these are pretty much very blanket teams. You could put anybody in what if you covered up their numbers. But you got to ride it with rivalry games because basically I think it was more intense when I played because there was just so much history. We fought the entire first quarter, and this was what it felt like when I played the Ravens in the league. We would fight the entire first quarter, and then we had to settle in and play football. And so the penalties are going to be high in that first quarter. Just the intensity was just nuts. And so if you can ride the wave and stay locked in, even if you get down by 10 points, down by 14 points, just like Arizona was, right? Arizona was down by 14 points to BYU last week, came back, took the lead, and made that a game. And of course they lost it in the end, but you got to be able to ride that wave of adversity through this game, whether it's a bad call by the ref or you throw a turnover or you miss a block, you miss a tackle. Ride that wave because I promise you the guy that made that mistake early in the game is going to make the play of the game at the end of it. So staying locked in for Utah is going to be very, very important. Even more so, it's when you get down to the end, that's when that focus and intensity to every step throughout the week where you're so locked in comes into play. You cannot make a mistake at the end of the game. And that's why you got to love football because every play matters. Every game matters, right? You're not going to have a time to make this game up like you do in the NBA where you're playing everybody 4 or 5 times, right? Like you got this one opportunity, this 160-minute game to make it happen. And ultimately, if it's tied up at the end of the third quarter, it's 0-0 going into the fourth quarter, and you have one quarter to make it happen. And so everything is going to be measured. So I just say stay in the fight, have a short memory as quarterbacks are supposed to have, and just stay because I would love to be like we just got to run the ball effectively. it's going to be tough. This BYU defense, I know Kiana Tonavasa is going to be ready to go. Glasgow, Jack Kelly's playing. This defensive line at BYU is pretty good. So if they stalemate you, they hit you in the mouth, kind of like Texas Tech did Utah, how are you going to respond? So stay in the fight, be able to respond, and the game is never over until that last buzzer.
So you referenced BYU's defensive front, and Jack Kelly playing is a big deal for them. I wonder how healthy Jack is, but I was told that he nearly played last week, and Jay's preference was to keep him
undressed.
Yes, yeah, right? Like, no, we need that kid for Utah. So and you know, it's interesting, Sly, because last week ASU came into the game and the data said they will be able to stop the run. They're susceptible in the air. So all week long, I'm like, well, Devin might have to throw it. He threw it 12 times. He didn't need to throw it. Utah ran all over ASU. If BYU is able to limit Utah on the ground, have you seen enough from Devin to indicate he'll be able to beat them with his arm? He's 3 for 19 on passes of over 20 yards, Sly, so that hasn't been a strength. But what does Utah do if BYU is able to successfully at least stymie that run game a little bit?
Man, I mean, things are opening up. You got guys who are coming out and being all-stars all over the point. This is one thing fans don't understand. It's just like we have not been able to hit a consistent deep ball. Right? I think the deepest ball we've hit this year was the pass to Ryan Davis when he was wide open in the slot after all that time. Our offensive line is so good that it's given Devin so many times to sit back there and pick the defense apart. Devin can throw the football. And so defense has got to beware. He's also just extremely that much more talented running the football. So what do you do, right? But when that running game shuts down, I have no doubt that he'll be able to take advantage, right, of the passing game and his passing threats right there. We have yet to hit Tobias Mayweather on a deep ball. The guy's 6'5", extremely athletic, can go up and get it, and we, for some reason, have not connected with him yet. Expect a big connection to Tobias Merriweather this game. I'm thinking he's the one who I'm really looking forward to making a name. Like right now, Ryan Davis and Dallin Bentley has been the names, but you haven't seen anything from Tobias Merriweather yet. An offensive threat. You got Daniel Bray, who's coming out and making a huge name for himself. That's real speed. All we've seen is fly sweeps. What are you going to do when he's running a wheel route out of the backfield? That's a running back with 10-300 speed and running a wheel route uncovered in the backfield, right? Jason Beck's intelligence is going to be on full display in this game because being able to take advantage of one-on-one situations, you're going to have Faletau Satuala have to cover guys like Daniel Bray. Faletau Satuala is a beast, right? He's huge. He's literally a linebacker playing free safety. Absolutely loved him in high school, and I hate that he went down south, but, you know, you do what you do. But he's going to be a guy that's going to have to cover a guy like Daniel Bray. Can he do it on air? And that's what you do. You get lineups. This is the whole deal with, Darren Sproles, right? Darren Sproles, he wasn't your blocker, right? You're not going to put him in there to pass protect. What do? You align him all over the field in the 3 slot, all the way at the X. You motion him in the backfield. You motion him back out to get his one-on-one angles. Football is all about angles. And you try to get a guy like Daniel Bray on an angle, good luck, right? And so how does Jason Beck take advantage of matchups like that? And while you're paying attention to Ryan Davis or Dallin Bentley, Tobias Merriweather, 6'5", and has a 38-inch vertical, and he's got one-on-one. What are you going to do? But BYU gets good corners. That's what I'm trying to say. This game, I've been thinking of just how similar these teams are, and I have no idea exactly who's going to come up, but I do believe in Devin Dampier's arm to be able to drive the ball downfield.
Sly, I can tell you're pumped, man. So
yeah. Wait till Saturday.
No, I can't wait. Look, it is compelling. It's going to be fun, and I appreciate your passion and your time today. So travel safe down there. Have a great call, and hopefully we're talking about a Utah win next week.
You're man. I'll fix my face when I see BYU fans this week.
Stevenson Sylvester, who apparently almost pushed a 7-year-old off a scooter when he was calling a football game, stops by today courtesy of our friends at IFA Country Stores. With IFA's Step 4 fall and winter lawn food, you get stronger roots now and an early green up next spring. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move. More at your local IFA or at IFA.coop. 2 tickets now to Sal Vulcano on October the 25th at the Eccles Theater. Text in your final score prediction for Utah BYU. It's 877-353-0700. Who's going to win and why? Text in your final score prediction. Porter will pick a winner to go see Sal Vulcano from the Impractical Jokers show on October the 25th at the Eccles Theater. So 877-353-0700. That's one phone number to remember. Here's another one, 801-424-DISH, 801-424-3474. Ryan from the Dish Pros is live in studio. I think I've been working with you for over 15 years, and this is the first time we have done a reverse remote.
It is. It's
right?
The first time. It's great, though.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome. All right. If you are a sports fan, why is Dish the best place to be? I think it's the best place to be. You tell sports fans why they need to make the switch to Dish.
Dish has done such a good job with integrating everything. They got the Game Finder app, which works super slick. It'll tell you where the games are, what channel. You can just, inside of the app, set recordings. One of my favorite things is that it auto records the locals. So, I mean, for instance, this Saturday night, that's the game's on Fox. It's just going to be auto record. If you have a Dish Hopper system, it'll be on your DVR automatically. And if you want to keep it, you just hit save. Otherwise, all the auto recording just drop off after a week. But it makes it simple to have access to all the content, and all the way down to if you want ESPN Plus. If you add that, it'll just drop it right in the guide.
That's the other thing I wanted to mention. One of the really cool features that Dish has that the other platform does not, because you're talking to somebody who had the other platform for a long time and now has had Dish for a while, is you can put all the apps you need on the Dish guide. So it's like a channel. It's on the guide. You don't have to hit input on your television 17 times and put in your password. Yep. And then, wait, I forgot my password. No, it's all, so like Amazon Prime, YouTube, Netflix, it's all on the guide. So basically your apps are like another channel.
Yeah, and it's neat because it's all set up that it works throughout your whole house. So you have access on the other TVs, and you have the full traditional TV with the DVR, and you have the streaming apps all built in. And this promotion is killer.
That's what I was going to say. So even if you weren't saving any money, you should switch because it's a better platform. But we have the potential and opportunity today to save people hundreds of dollars while actually making the switch to a better platform. Yeah, so let's hear about the promotion.
Even if you're only just a few dollars in savings, or maybe even the same price, but in most cases, a lot of customers are paying a lot more than what they'd be paying with Dish. And you got a 2-year promotional price where the price is guaranteed not to change. But the kicker is you get 3 months of Dish's top package, which includes all the channels. You get that free, and that top package is worth about $130 a month. So you get that free right off the bat. Plus, you get for 4 months, you get a Paramount Plus free, you get Showtime free, and you get the NFL Red Zone free when you get set up as a new customer.
And a 2-year price guarantee.
Big, yeah.
So your price does not go up for 2 years.
Not change.
And if you compare that to how often prices go up on the other platform, that's another hundreds in savings.
Every year.
Yeah.
It's at the minimum. Cable does it more often, but every year you're going to see a rate increase, and you're not going to see that for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, what's 2025, 6, 7, 2027?
Awesome. Now, the other thing I always say is if you think you're paying too much for internet, you are. If you go out to your mailbox and get the letter and you open it up and your wife says, we're paying too much for this, and you're like, yeah, I know, I'll get to it, and you never do, you have options for people that are clearly paying too much for internet.
A lot of people don't even know because they've got it on credit card auto pay. And, if you look at your credit card statement, see how much you're spending on your internet. And if it's not working for you, they just keep raising the rates. There are so many different internet providers, and it's a really competitive market. And that is good for the consumer when it's like that because there's so many different providers out there. And you can get better prices, and you have first month free, gift cards. We've got all kinds of cool stuff for new customers. So call us up. We've got a great system where we can plug in your address and be able to tell you what's available and what the speeds and prices are. And you'll get the best price for internet and TV when you call us. That's something we guarantee.
Pick up the phone and call today at 801-424-DISH, 801-424-DISH, 801-424-3474. Ryan, you're the man.
And remember, they get $100 if they call today.
But you got to call today to get the extra $100. So 801-424-3474. Pick up the phone. Danny Cannell joins us coming up next right here on ESPN 700. We got a little line movement for Utah BYU. On a couple of sports books, Utah has gone from a 3.5-point favorite to a 3-point favorite for the big game in Provo on Saturday night. Our pregame coverage as your home of the Utes will begin at 1 o'clock with that guy, Porter Larson. And kickoff is at 6. Our next guest joins us from time to time to talk college football. One of my favorites, the great Danny Cannell, on a Thursday. Happy Thursday, Danny. How are you, sir?
Happy Thursday. It's great catching up with you, Spencer. Always good. Fired up, man. We're about halfway through the college football season. It's been a wild start, and I think it's only going to get better, man. It's been so much fun. So we've got some interesting races to the finish for sure.
We sure do. I always like to ask our national guests the following question this week. What sort of understanding do you have, and what are your thoughts on just the rivalry from a macro standpoint, Utah BYU football? How does that resonate with you?
Oh, for me, so I've called individual games for Utah. I've called games at Rice-Eccles, and I've been in Provo and called games there as well. So I understand the fan bases, and I understand their passion for football, which I don't know if the rest of the country fully appreciates it. So I can only imagine what type of heated rivalry it is. I mean, I did see a video today from probably 15, 20 years ago of a cheerleader beating somebody up on the field. Like, I know there's a lot of bad blood. I know it's one that's just like a lot of the great rivalries in college football. There's a lot of hatred for the opponent, and that's what makes it great, right? So it's got a storied, traditional rival to its sense. I think it probably flies under the radar as far as on the national stage. When people talk top rivalries, you hear of the Iron Bowl. You hear of, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Miami. I don't think it gets up there, but it probably should get more credit for the rivalry that it is.
And there are a few extra layers this year, Danny. They're both really good. They're both in the top 25, and they're both still in the mix as far as the Big 12 goes, which is a conference that often cannibalizes itself. And I do want to ask you about Texas Tech in a moment, but I do want to hone in on this game. Utah is a 3-point or a 3.5-point favorite, depending on which sports book you look at. It is in Provo. They're very, very similar, Danny. They have coaching staffs. There's a lot of cross-pollination. Ute alums on the BYU staff, BYU alums on the Ute staff. Who do you like on Saturday night to get this done, and why?
Man, I think this is a great game. I really do. And, it's interesting because you got the first and second rushing offenses in the conference going against each other. And when you said that, you kind of stole my thunder because I do think these teams are built very similarly, right? They've got mobile quarterbacks who I do think clearly with Dan Pierre, you have a little bit of an edge in the pass game because he's been around. He's played a little bit more football, obviously, than a true freshman in Barrett Bachmeier. But they both have, mobile quarterbacks that can make enough plays to put some stress on your defense. And they both play really physical defense on the defensive side of the ball. So I think this is going to be a game that kind of comes down to the wire. I do think it's a field goal type game. And the one thing that has really resonated and stuck out with me is the importance of home field advantage. It really does. I think, in the NFL, they always say it's worth 3 points. I think it's worth more in college. With college players, you just see them impacted more than you do in the NFL. So I lean towards BYU and the points so far. And a lot of people want to point out they think BYU is fraudulent. They haven't played anybody. But I will never fault a team for just winning games. That's the only thing they've had is been able to win the game on their schedule. And then really Utah, since they lost to Texas Tech, they have bounced back in a massive way. So they're playing really good football too. But I think this is a really tightly matched contest, which some people might be surprised based on the expectation for BYU coming into the season. But we really shouldn't because the consistency that Kalani Sitake has delivered there for BYU.
Yeah, I want to, you're a guy that played quarterback at the highest of levels, and Bear Bachmeier is a true freshman quarterback. And to your point, they've passed every test that has been put to them as far as just simply winning the game that you're playing, which is the bottom line. And if you handle the business you're supposed to handle, things will fall into place. But for a guy that played this position at that age, do you think there's any way to prepare a true freshman quarterback for a game that is as heavy and intense as this rivalry game will be on Saturday night?
No, but I do think there's some beauty in the naivete that he brings into this game, right? He is young, and I know he's got family that's like he's used to this rivalry, and I'm sure he's well-versed in how much different it is. I'll never forget my first experience as a starter in the Florida State-Miami rivalry. I was a junior, but it was my first big game. I had about 4 or 5 starts under my belt. And Mark Richt, my coordinator at the time, called me in and he said, this game's going to be different. And I kind of glossed over it. I was like, yeah. I'm like, we'll be fine. Now, we had to go to the old Orange Bowl in Miami, and that place was electric. And it used to absolutely light up anytime there was a rivalry game like that one. So we start marching down the field, and I'll never forget mentally in my head, I was like, this isn't so bad. And we get down in the red zone. I try to squeeze one in a tight window because I was getting a little cocky. I threw in an interception, and, boy, all of a sudden the tide turned. I was running for my life all night. I threw 3 picks. But that was on the road, and I do think that's one thing that will help Bear is being at home. It does help. You won't have that, the intensity of not being able to hear anything. You'll be able to communicate. You don't have the crowd harassing you all night. So I do think that's something he has in his favor. But he truly doesn't know what he's getting into until you've actually experienced one of these rivalry games. But I do think that can also be a blessing in disguise if he doesn't really know any better.
So Kalani Sitake was the defensive coordinator under Kyle Whittingham for 10 years up here in Salt Lake, and I did a coach's show with him every week when he was here, so got to know him really well. He's a great guy and a very, very good football coach. Of course, Aaron Roderick was up here for a long time. He's now calling plays for BYU. Jason Beck played for BYU. He's calling plays for Utah. Kyle Whittingham was the Defensive Player of the Year in the WAC in the 80s. He's Utah's head coach. When it comes to coaching staffs that are friends, that know each other, that want to play football in a very similar way, Jay Hill, BYU's defensive coordinator, coached under Kyle and played at Utah. Is it even possible to surprise the other staff with schematics or what have you when everyone seems to know each other so well?
No, there's always a wrinkle or two. I mean, the game is always evolving, right? So there's always kind of wrinkles you can look, maybe a new formation, maybe a trick play. But you have to be cautious sometimes because you really don't want to change your identity of who you are. So I'm sure they'll have some wrinkles. I love the dynamic because in a rivalry game, even though there are a lot of friendships, it's kind of like when you played against your siblings growing up or your best friends. I remember I had a couple buddies of mine. We hung out. We went to the same high school, but we went to the park and we played pickup hoops. Like, if we were on different teams, it got nasty. Like, we wanted to beat each other when we were on the opposite sides. And I think that's the type of – there's a healthy respect. But when that whistle starts and all of a sudden that ball is kicked off, there will be no holds barred, and it is do whatever it takes to win. But I do think maybe have a couple wrinkles. But really, ultimately, you don't want to change who you are too much or else you get caught too much up into trying to over-scheme. I think both of these teams – have a very clear identity, and they want to stick to it and just try to play a clean game where you don't have turnovers, you don't give up special teams touchdowns, and you try to manage this thing so you get to the fourth quarter with a chance to win, especially if you're BYU as the underdog.
BYU's getting the Jack Kelly kid back, and he missed the game a week ago against Arizona. He might be the best linebacker in the Big 12. And what BYU has been able to do so far this year is contain the run. They have not really pressured the quarterback very well. But, Danny, ASU rolled into town last week, and the data said they can stop the run. They're susceptible through the air. So all week on my show, I'm like, I feel like Devin's going to have to throw it 30 times. He threw it 12 times. They ran all over Arizona State. Do you think Utah will be able to succeed rushing the ball against BYU? And attendant to the question, if BYU is able to stop the run, have you seen enough from Devin to believe that he can get it done with his arm?
No, I haven't seen that yet. And really the team that had the most success, of course, was Texas Tech. And then all of a sudden he was banged up, right? I mean, that was a big storyline of that one. Found out after the game was that he had missed some practice. So clearly he wasn't himself. But I still think until I see it consistently, and that includes last year when Dampier was with Jason Beck in New Mexico and he had 12 interceptions to go along with the 12 touchdowns. I think when you have somebody as dynamic that hasn't really proven it yet, to do it against top-tier competition, to throw the football, I think as much as you can, you want to take that away and make them one-dimensional. But the problem is he's such an insane athlete, it's a lot easier said than done. So I would, to answer your question, if BYU can take away Dampier and his legs, I do think that is a great win for BYU. Now, the next test is, can you stop them through the air? But I do think that's the game plan that they'll try to approach.
So I want to ask you about Texas Tech. Now, for anyone who actually, I don't love the way that the Utah-Texas Tech game has been covered, because for anybody who watched it, it was a rock fight for 3.5 quarters. Now, I don't know if it was fatigue for Utah at the end. I give the Will Hammond kid a ton of credit for stepping in as a backup and really slicing up Utah's secondary. And the final score is the final score, period, 34-10. But my question, Danny, is it time just to say that Texas Tech isn't just the best team in the Big 12, but maybe one of the top 6 or 7 teams in the country?
Yes, I have them ranked number 6. I mean, they've been dominant throughout. And to your point, I think people forget they did pick off Aaron Morton twice. You know, that defense was playing really good. And sometimes you play a great team like that, all of a sudden you make a mistake or two, and then all of a sudden the floodgates kind of open. That's where that margin for error is really minimized, where you're playing against a team you're kind of even against or you're better than. You can mask a mistake. But Texas Tech, that's what really great teams do, is they make you pay. And I think that's what happened in the fourth quarter of that game. But to your point, the biggest difference to me has been the defense at Texas Tech. And that's where they spent most of their money in the transfer portal, with a transfer from Stanford and David Bailey and a transfer from Georgia Tech and Romello Height. They have absolutely been as advertised. And I was very curious to see how it would go because, you know, we've seen all over a lot of sports, professional sports, you try to just buy the best team. It doesn't always work because it's a team game. You need continuity. You need chemistry. But they really have come together impressively so quickly. I think it is a testament to Joey McGuire. And I do think they're the best team in the Big 12. But I do think Utah would love a rematch with a healthy Dampier and a Big 12 conference championship game, which is another reason why this BYU-Utah game is so huge, to stay at the forefront of that Big 12 championship race.
For sure. So one follow-up question, then I do have a couple of other questions not involving our local teams or Big 12. But you referenced Utah, if they're able to get it done, and I'll actually include BYU in this conversation as well. So whoever, yeah, absolutely. So whoever wins on Saturday night, Danny, let's say an 11-1 Utah team, they beat BYU, they handle their business, they go to the Big 12 championship game, and they play an undefeated Texas Tech team, and Tech still wins the game. Does an 11-2 Utah team with 2 losses to Tech get in the CFP? And if BYU's able to win and they lose to Tech twice as well, because they will see Tech at their place, same question, does an 11-2 BYU or Utah team with 2 losses to Tech join Tech in the CFP?
So here's what'll bother me, and I'm sure it'll bother BYU and Utah fans. I will fight for them for that to be the case, and ultimately, unfortunately, the answer is probably no, unless it is a tightly contested game that goes down to the fourth quarter, kind of like you saw with SMU and Clemson last year. Because if you remember, Clemson snuck into the ACC championship game. They were a 9-3 regular season team, and early in that game, they were up 3 touchdowns against SMU, who already had a loss. And so SMU, the narrative was, SMU is done. They're going to be left out of the playoffs. Well, they came back, tied it up. Clemson had a game-winning field goal, and they got in. But here is what the biggest flaw in the college football playoff process to me is. If that's the case, what you're talking about, and they get left out because they played Texas Tech and lost in the Big 12 championship game, why do they even play it? Because there will be a lot of teams that are sitting at home that are going to pound the table and say, we're better than those teams. We should be in. Well, they don't have another test. And all of a sudden, because they faced another incredible opponent in Texas Tech, especially if they're undefeated, and they lose, they get punished for a postseason, which these other teams essentially would have a bye into the playoffs. It just doesn't make any hate it for those programs, although I do fear they would probably get left out over, guess who else, probably 10, even a Big Ten team. It's just the narrative, the reputations, the brands, they all favor those 2 conferences, specifically the SEC. And I do worry about the new strength of schedule metric that the selection committee is using this year that really is going to favor the gauntlet. And I'm using a little bit of sarcasm here because I think it's a little bit over the top with those teams in the SEC and the play that they get all season long. Well, they'll give those teams the benefit of doubt and probably send the Big 12 loser home just like they did last year.
Who's the second best team in the Big 12, according to Danny Cannell?
Oh, I think we'll find out this weekend.
Yep.
Like, I'm big on BYU and Utah, so I say the winner of that game is the second best team. Arizona State, we've seen that, and credit to Utah for, completely annihilating them last week. Sam Levitt Would he have made the difference? Probably not. They've got a good test this weekend. But I think it's the winner of the Holy War. I'm going with that game. I think it's the winner of that game is the second-best team. I would lean towards Utah. They're a favorite for a reason. I do trust more of a veteran quarterback more than Bachmeier. I do think, though, that BYU is more than capable of pulling off this upset.
There are 10 SEC teams in the top 25. Is there an elite football team in the SEC this year, Danny?
I think Alabama is the best football team out there in the SEC, and I saw them in person at Florida State. And while everybody was panicking and saying, oh, this team is done, they're cooked, I looked at them and said, man, they just ran into a buzzsaw. Like, Florida State had this performance of the season. They had two new coordinators that Alabama clearly wasn't prepared for. And Alabama was without Tim Keenan, their best defensive lineman, and without Jam Miller, their running back. And since then, it really has been a wake-up call for them where it woke them up and really galvanized the locker room. And since that game, which also was Ty Simpson's first start as a collegiate quarterback on the road, he's kind of found his footing, and he's playing as good as anybody. So I think Bama is an elite team. And I would say Texas A&M, they did have the road win against Notre Dame there earlier this season. I think you have to give them credit for that. And I think their defense is really, really good. Their defensive line is incredible. So I think those two teams are the elite ones. But other than that, they're just a bunch of okay to good teams, which drives me nuts because just because they have the rankings in front of their names, they all get so much credit for beating one another, and they don't get dinged as much for losing to one another. And I think this year more than ever, they're really just kind of good teams, not great teams.
I know this might sting. I'm going to ask you anyway. And, you know, you and I are close to the same age, and you're talking to somebody who wore a Florida State starter jacket in high school because I came up when the Florida State-Miami rivalry was everything. But is it time to admit that Miami might be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country? How real are they this year?
Oh, thanks. I thought you were going to ask me about Florida State losing 3 in a row, so I can answer this question easy.
Okay.
Because I don't have any problem complimenting the Canes. I mean, I was at that game in Tallahassee, saw firsthand what they did, and they do have a different looking offensive and defensive line. They really are. I mean, Mario Cristobal recruited well. He's got some absolute monsters. They like to call them creatures. That's their nickname, and they really do look like creatures down there in Coral Gables. And then you pair that with Carson Beck, who has kind of returned to form what we saw 2 years ago, a run game which is nasty, Malachi Toney, a true freshman receiver who's balling out, C.J. Bailey, another receiver. Like, they really look like a complete team. And I haven't even mentioned Reuben Bain, who's getting some Heisman love as an edge pass rusher. They really do look like the part. And I do think they are almost one of those teams that I would put Sharpie in the college football playoff, because their first 5 games were by far the toughest, and they went through it. They went through Notre Dame. They went through Florida. They went through Florida State, even went through USF, who was a good group of 5 team, and they went through it unscathed. They should be able to waltz into the college football playoff.
Before I say you lose, Danny, life comes at you pretty fast. 3 weeks ago, James Franklin had the number 2 team in the country and a 7-point lead over Oregon in overtime, and now he does not have a job. Your thoughts on the decision of Penn State to let him go, and who do you think they land on?
So it is. I mean, it's taken me a while to get used to this. It's just crazy. I mean, to spend $50 million to send somebody not to coach after the guys had back-to-back seasons where he had, or 3 seasons in a row, where he had double-digit wins. They were in the fourth quarter with a chance to get to the national championship game against Notre Dame last year and came up short. And then because of a couple really bad losses, and I get it, they're just ready to move on. And a lot of this comes into the season, right, his record against top 5 opponents. I get it. But I'm sure you've seen this news already. One of their top targets was Kirk Cignetti. We're going to go get Kirk Cignetti. Kirk Cignetti just signed an extension to become one of the top 5 highest-paid college football coaches. So take him off the board. All right, now I guess it's on to Matt Rule, who played there at Nebraska. Well, what happens if Matt Rule inks a similar deal at Nebraska and they make him a long-term deal? Then all of a sudden you start going down the pecking order, and it's like, uh-oh, are we sure we're going to get an upgrade? And I've seen it happen. Of course, everyone wants to give the Georgia, example where they went from Mark Richt to Kirby Smart, and they were really good, and they went to great. But there's also Nebraska, which fired Bo Pelini because they were tired of 9 and 10 win seasons. There's the Florida Gators, who sent Dan Mullen packing because they were tired of only getting to SEC championship games. And then what's happened since? Both of those programs have kind of been reeling, looking for the next guy. It has it doesn't always work out. The grass is not always greener, and we'll see where Penn State goes. But that's the business. That's the world we live in right now in college football, which is crazy.
Danny, where's the best place for people to go to get updated college football playoff and Heisman odds, buddy?
Bet Online. Make sure you check it out. They have some fun ones, too, like Bill Belichick. When is he going to get fired? They have some off-the-wall ones that are a ton of fun, plus the best lines for college football games, as always.
Thank you, my friend. Have a great weekend, okay?
I appreciate it. You too.
All right, Danny Cannell. Check out betonline.ag for updated college football playoff, Heisman, and college football Week 8 lines. Speaking of which, the line for Utah BYU has moved on BetOnline. BYU is still a 3-point favorite, but Utah no longer favored by 3.5. They're now favored by 3. All right, before we catch a break, to bring in Gordon Monson coming up on the other side. Ryan from the Dish Professionals in the house. Here's the deal. If you are a sports fan and you do not have Dish, I can just promise you you're doing it wrong, because I've tried all the other platforms. And with Dish, you get all the football you want, period, end of story. But the other thing is you get all the Mammoth games, you get all the Jazz games. As a local sports fan, Dish is the place to go. And, Ryan, we've got a bunch of great promotions today, don't we?
We do. We got some great offers right now. Dish is threw a little extra incentive in today, so we got $100 cash back, and on top of this really stacked offer with Dish, with this 2-year promotion, 2-year price guarantee, plus we'll throw in Dish's top package. It's over 440 channels, free for the first 3 months. It goes even further with free movie channels and the NFL Red Zone free for 4 months.
And today, $100 cash back, but that's only today, as you referenced. So the 3 months for free, the 2-year price guarantee. The DVR, I know you're jealous, but I still have the first Rose Bowl Utah played in on my Dish DVR. It is such a superior DVR to the other guys.
It really is, and it's such a great receiver. 16 tuners, 2 terabytes of storage, auto records your locals, auto hops commercials. I mean, that alone should make you want to do it, because you're going to get be able to watch TV, and then when the commercials come on, it's pretty slick. It just automatically little hopper logo pops up, and it skips all 7, 10, 12 commercials, and you're right back to your regular programming.
And then it's you help me with the terminology. The auto record for the local programming. Mm-hmm. What do they call that?
It's
or maybe they just call it the auto record.
They just throw me for a loop. It's called Primetime Anytime.
Primetime Anytime. That has saved my bacon several times, because if you forget to DVR something that's on one of the primetime local channels, it's still there. You can go home, and if you forgot, it's still there to watch.
It works out really good for football, too. That's my favorite part, is all the Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night football, Monday night football. It's just going to be on your DVR, and you can watch it at your leisure. I
always like to underscore this, and maybe it's because I'm lazy, but I think it's important for people to know that you will also install all of this. You have great installers, Dave, my guy, LeBron James of installation, that has solved so many problems. If they get you early enough, you'll install the next day, right?
Yeah, if you give us a call now, we can get you installed tomorrow, and installation's free. We'll come out, set everything up, get the dish all dialed in, set the remotes up so it runs your TVs. Even if you need help too, like maybe you bought a new TV, you want to get it mounted, we can help with that stuff. So it's an easy solution. You get the best price guarantee with us, and $100 cash back on top of everything.
Now, people know you as the Dish Professionals, but you have a new angle to your business, which is helping people get more affordable internet. So if you're one of those people that every month you get your bill and you think to yourself, I'm paying too much for this, you are paying too much for it. So how can you help people with internet solutions as well?
And this is such an easy thing right now. There's so many different internet providers, and the opportunity to just save $20, $30, $40 a month. And, it's surprising. I'll find, especially cable customers that are spending over $100 a month. Call us up, take advantage of our tools that we can search and tell you exactly what's available at your house, what the speeds are, what the price is, and you get the best price when you call us. And we'll line you up with a better internet and a better TV solution, which equates to which a lot of these customers are getting over $100 a month in savings when they switch both their internet and their TV. And we got these really cool tricks too, where all your internet connected devices will just work with a new internet. You just pay less money.
A lot of information, but the bottom line is you'll save a ton of money, and who doesn't enjoy that? The best thing to do is call and then ask questions, and they're going to walk you through the process, and bottom line, see what they can do for you. So if you've been waiting, today's a great day to do it, because it's an extra $100 cash back today only with our friends at the Dish Pros 801-424-DISH. It's 801-424-DISH. 801-424-3474. Ryan, you're the man.
Thank you.
Gordon Monson joins us coming up next right here on ESPN 700. Trying not to stumble over that phrase all week long. You know what the Godfather music means. It means it's time for the Godfather himself from the Salt Lake Tribune, my former radio partner, Gordon Monson. Happy Thursday, Gordo. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine, thanks, Spence. Just got done exercising, and I'm ready to go.
So what? You just walked from the kitchen to the office so you could get on the phone? Is that what you did today?
Well, walking is very good for people. It's a healthy thing to do.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm very proud of you. Hey, thanks for the time. Tell me what this week is like for you. Like, what comes to mind? There's so many moments. There's so many moments of the game and so many moments off the field. What are some of the things that come to mind when this week kind of lands on a Monday?
Well, you mentioned it. There's so many memories through the years for those of us who've been around for a while. It's some of them funny, some of them not particularly funny, and some of them just thrilling competitively. That's one thing you can say about this game. It seems like more often than not, it comes down to the very end, and that's what makes it so great. That it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. Well, every once in a while, when one team is clearly inferior to the other, it doesn't work out so well. But oftentimes, they're in the ballpark together, and you don't know. I was telling that group yesterday, I said, there's no way I would bet on this game.
No
yeah,
way. Yeah. No.
I'm not touching this game. Just because you just don't know. It could come down to, Spence, and I'm sure you've been talking about this all week, it could come down to one little turnover, and you're sitting there going, okay, how was I supposed to predict that was going to happen?
No, 100%. And that's no matter. And by the way, I wouldn't bet on it knowing how this game plays out, no matter what the line said. And the line says Utah is a slight favorite. We actually had some movement for the first time about 30 minutes ago. Some money came in on BYU. So now Utah is a 3-point favorite. But Gordo, as you know, because I know you've dug into this stuff and you've been writing about it, they're so similar now in a way that it wasn't back in the day. Like, Jay Hill learned how to coach defense under Kyle Whittingham. So did Kalani. And the defenses are similar. They both want to run the football. They both have dual threat quarterbacks that can run. I honestly don't know exactly where the advantage is. There's some areas that, the data indicates Utah's a little bit better at this or that, and BYU might have an advantage there. But I want you to make a case for both teams. So if Utah's able to win, what do you think they have to do?
Devin Dampier has to get loose to be able to create havoc for BYU's defense. BYU's defense through the years, historically speaking, has had trouble with fleet-footed quarterbacks, and we've seen that this year with this particular iteration of defenders. So if he can get comfortable and he can get loose, and that offensive line creates some space for him and for other running backs as well, and enough time for him to get comfortable when he does want to throw, then that would be a huge advantage for the Utes. And that offensive line is unbelievable. And by the way, you mentioned it. And I know you've looked at this in detail, that BYU's defense, they do play a lot like traditional Utah defenses, with those defensive the back end of that defense, manning up, and the rest of the guys taking care of the stopping the run. And that's, I've talked to Kyle Whittingham. I've talked to Kalani Sitake about this. I've talked to both defensive coordinators about it. Their number one priority is stop the run. And when you stop the run, then that enables you to do the things. You get burned a little bit here and there through the air, but if you stop the run, you're going to probably win the game if you don't turn the ball over. And I think that's the way both of these defenses are built. As for the Cougars, if Bear Bachmeier has time to throw, then I think those guys, those receivers are pretty fleet-footed for BYU. Chase Roberts is a stud, and we've seen some of the, Kingston. We've seen some of the things that these guys can do. Hagan, others. If he gets comfortable, then I think that goes a long way for BYU winning this game. If Morgan Scalley's defense can rattle him, can hurry him up, because he's much less efficient when he's hurried, which is the case for most quarterbacks. If BYU can prevent that from happening, then that goes a long way for a BYU victory.
So I've actually thought about you a couple of different times this week. I'm not trying to be weird. I'll tell you why. We've had some interesting story time on the show, and Jim Herman joined us on Monday, Gordon. And Jim, of course, defensive end for that 1984 national championship team, and he was teammates with Witt when Witt was a player at BYU. And as you know, when you're a radio host and your guest says the following, I have a story to tell, but I don't think I should share it. Your job is to make sure they share it, okay? So luckily, we were able to give Jim the space to share a night where when Witt was trying to decide if he wanted to stay here in Salt Lake or go back to Provo to coach BYU, Lavelle was being inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Jim met Steve Young in New York, and they took a car to the ceremony, and while they were in the car, Witt called them and said the following, quote, I am coming home. Told them he was taking the BYU job. And then Jim and Steve started celebrating. They started calling all the other BYU alums, and word spread that Witt was coming home. And as you know, because you reported on this, 2 hours later, the phone call came and said, no, I'm actually staying to coach Utah. You and I were doing the show together during that time. What do you remember about that? Just how close was Kyle to going down to coach BYU, and how consequential was the decision he made to stay in Salt Lake?
Well, you know, and you do, as I reported that and wrote about it, Spence, you remember the heat I took when Kyle Whittingham changed his mind. That blew almost everybody away, everybody who was close to him, because I wasn't making that stuff up. Some Ute fans were going, you know, you're Cosmo, you want him to go to BYU. That's BS, man. We were getting it from very legitimate sources who were extremely close to Kyle Whittingham. He turned on a dime at the last second and shocked a whole lot of people who were in positions to know that he was going to go. And at that time, he was having difficulty with certain administrators at Utah, and he was going to make that move. And then at the last second, and I have never gotten from him exactly what it was in particular that made him change his mind. But for anybody out there who thought we were just making stuff up, and that's what I got accused of, and that's what others got accused of as well, it just wasn't the case. Unless Kyle was so diabolical that he was using everybody to get his way with certain administrators at Utah. And I try not to believe that, because I think he was being earnest in his pursuit. But he changed his mind at the last second. And so those of us who suggested that he was seriously considering going to BYU, that made us look like we were wrong. And we ended up being wrong. But I don't think we were, because Kyle Whittingham was going to go to BYU.
Well, I mean, that story confirms it. And Dr. Hill was in the studio on Monday, and he also shared a really gripping, fascinating story with the same dynamic, where at 7 o'clock at night, he was getting ready to go down a list of other candidates. And then 2 hours later, Kyle called him and said he had changed his mind. And, you know, Jim's assertion is there was a large pay raise offered for Kyle to stay in Salt Lake. And Gordon, like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, if that was the deal, we're all trying to make more money and have more freedom over our time. And, you know, that's a long, long time ago now, 20 years ago now, where the salaries then aren't what they are now. So if it was money that motivated Kyle, good for him. But the other part of it is Utah football was just coming off a couple of year period where Urban was here, and Urban changed the entire scope and direction of the program. They go undefeated in 04. They win the Fiesta Bowl. Alex is the number one overall pick. And then suddenly Utah football was on the radar of the Pac-12 in a way that BYU wasn't and was never going to be, because of the culture and political the dynamics in play where the Pac-12 was just not interested in them. So it could have been money, but also could have been Kyle just intelligently kind of reading the future and seeing around the corner that Utah was going to be able to get an invite into a P4 conference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, Kyle made the right decision.
Yep.
I don't think anybody can argue the other way. And he's had a terrific, terrific career at Utah, and it's played out from the time that you described moving forward. And so, people sometimes change their mind But it's important for people to know that at that time we were reporting things that were absolutely true. And it's tough because you can't really reveal your sources at that time because, it just might have been coming from people whose last name rhymed with Schmittingham, So, we couldn't say that. We couldn't say what we were hearing and who we were hearing it from because we were protecting certain people who didn't want to go have their name attached to what was going on. But Kyle made the right decision. It worked out, and apparently it's worked out for BYU as well. And so, but what does this all have to do with what we're talking about this week? It shows you how what's the word? How intertwined everything is between these two programs and these two schools. That's the way the fan bases are. There are some separations there. Obviously, some people were never BYU fans, were never going to be BYU fans. But there's a whole lot of people from the same family. One roots red, one roots blue. And it goes from the fans, it goes to the schools, it goes to the professors, it goes to the coaching staffs on both teams. They are connected in so many ways. And go down the list, you can see all the coaches who spent some time at the other school, including Kyle and including Kalani.
Tell me how you have seen this this rivalry change, and I want to kind of unwrap a little context and give you the space. I've said this a few times on the show this week. I don't know this to be true. I do not know it to be true, but I feel like Kyle didn't really like Bronco, and I feel like Bronco didn't really like Kyle. I've never heard either of them say that. That was just kind of the feel I had. And I think the icy nature of that relationship spilled over into some of the fan behavioral stuff. And look, with a rivalry like this, you are still going to see some bad behavior. We have seen some disgusting behavior this week. There's a BYU fan who's in jail for making threats to shoot anyone who's wearing red. So I'm not saying the good behavior is permeating all over the place, but it does feel like the relationship between Kyle and Kalani that is not just civil but actually friendly has changed a little bit the tone and tenor of the rivalry from a macro standpoint. So give me your thoughts on that, Gordon.
Everything you just said is true. Bronco and Kyle did not like each other, did not care for each other either which way. And I don't know where they are now. Maybe that's been smoothed over, but back then it wasn't good. And, of course, Kyle and Kalani are really close and treat each other with great respect. So that has changed. As far as the fan behavior goes, I used to really like the rivalry week, and I thought it was fun for people to be so passionate about it. But I don't know if it's because of what's happened in our country or the divisions that we see so often sprouting up. I just am not into it like that anymore. Yeah, I want people to have fun, and I want them to be passionate about their particular team. But when it gets down to the hating the other guys, for whatever reason people want to concoct, it's grown wearisome for me, and I'm not really into that. But I do like it that people care so much about their particular team, and there's nothing wrong with a little ribbing at work or at church or at school or wherever. And that's all healthy. But it's like so many things in our lives these days. You got to know where that line is, and you got to walk it. Because if you don't, then it just gets stupid. And the example you just gave, give me a freaking break. Who thinks like that? Unfortunately, apparently one person did, and I hope nobody else does.
Yeah, well said. And, I want to be clear. There's bad behavior all over the place, and I'm not trying to put a broad blanket on BYU fans, but that seemed to be next level. And, of course, it makes national news, so everybody's like, what the hell is going on in Utah, which is really too bad. But let me move over here. I had Witt on yesterday, and I tried to ask him the question, is this your last game, your last rivalry game as Utah's coach, without asking him directly. I kind of went like the roundabout, like with that potentially being in the background and maybe permeating underneath the scenes, does that change the approach of the week at all? If this is Kyle's last game against BYU as Utah's coach, what sort of dynamic do you think that adds to his approach as we approach game time on Saturday?
boy, I'm not sure anything needs to be added to his approach because he is so, and you probably sensed this in your interview with him, but even on Monday when he was talking at his press conference, he was asked about BYU's players, and he just couldn't bring himself to even make any comment at all. And that's how he feels about it. There's all kinds of dynamics involved there. There were family members in his family who wanted him to be at BYU. Obviously, he played there. And then there have been things that have happened. Remember the cell phone incident after the one game? I mean, there have been things that have agitated him. And I don't know all the details that brings him to boil at that level. But he hates this game. He hates playing BYU. He hates all the stuff that goes along with it. And the only thing he hates more than that is losing to BYU. He definitely does not want to lose to the Cougars. And if this is his last game against them, and he was asked about that, somebody asked him about that, and I think the word he used, well, your assumption is this or that. I'm not sure if Kyle is ready to hang it up or not. I could see him maybe staying another year, depending upon what Devin Dampier does. When you have a quarterback and you have a good defense, then that's and you're making $7-8 million a year. It's kind of tough to walk away from. But I think he's approaching this game the way he always has. I don't think he can pour any more energy into it. I don't think the care factor can be any higher than it already is. But if it is his last year, he certainly doesn't want to lose to the guys in blue at this particular occasion. But he never has.
So one more thing with this dynamic, because we have discussed it on the show. I've talked about it during solo segments. I've asked other guests this as well, because you're right. On Monday, Kyle was asked about Bear and just didn't want to even talk about the dynamic at all. And a week ago, he gave a very nuanced answer about Sam Levitt. So that was a different thing. And there have been other times where Kyle has clearly, as the kids would say, been trolling BYU fans and BYU when asked about certain things. Like, I think it was the last year of the Pac-12 media day, and Kyle was asked about his rival. And he said, are you talking about USC? Are you talking about Colorado? And said, oh, wait, you're talking about the in-state game. And obviously that was intentional. I've always been of the opinion that the vitriol that Kyle gets from BYU fans, the hate he gets from BYU fans, actually does make him angry. I don't think he appreciates it. So I can't speak to the relationship he has with his ex-teammates or the relationship he has with anybody down at BYU right now, but I do think there is a big part of Kyle Whittingham that really does not like the way that he and his family have been treated, and I think that is why at times he elects to go about his business in a very specific way during this week. Give me your thoughts on that.
No doubt that it's professional, but it's also personal. I mean, it is, and he's not going to talk about that in detail. He does give hints of it, like you just described, but I think he has respect for certain people involved with BYU's football program. But on the whole, he wants to prove something against that particular opponent. And anybody who knows Kyle Whittingham knows he's about as competitive a dude as you're ever going to meet. I don't care what he's involved with. It could be just playing checkers. I mean, the dude wants to win at every turn, and he doesn't really give an inch. And the other thing about Kyle is he's really, really smart. He is one of the smartest dudes I know, and the fact that he lets this emotional side come out when he is as intelligent as he is tells you that he can't keep it all the way in. He cares so much that he can't keep it in, even if he knows that he wants to, at least the way he presents it publicly. But he does like to give BYU the business a little bit when it comes to any kind of advantage that he's been able to create at Utah.
All right, Gordo, before I say you loose, do you have a lean? Again, the line is very close. They're two really, really good teams. I don't know if you're going to save your pick for a trib column. It's fine if you want to, but what's your gut tell you? How do you think this thing goes down?
Well, I think Utah is really good, and the advantage that they have with Devin Dampier, I think, is a real one. I usually write, oftentimes I've written 50 things that will happen during this game. I haven't written that column yet, and I don't know if I'm going to because it's that much of a toss-up, I think. I probably will go ahead and write it, but as I always put in there, I'll be wrong about half the things I write. And that is the beauty. That is the real beauty of this rivalry, is that picking a winner is so difficult to do. I mean, when Lavelle was going and they were beating the Utes every year, that was then. And in college, they went 9 in a row against BYU, and now BYU has won 2 in a row, and you got this one. And it's in Provo, which does make a difference. But, man, I'll tell you, Spence, I cannot, as much as we study this stuff, it is very difficult for me to make a pick. I think I will eventually, and I think I will write that column. But right now, I think my lean would probably be toward Utah at this point. But I could say that, and it's cheap to say that, but I ain't going to bet on it, that's for sure.
It's not the only consequential game on Saturday night. RSL, Gordo, as you know, a must-win against St. Louis. What makes St. Louis such a dangerous opponent for RSL?
I think one of the things that St. Louis, as I call them, does is they're well-formed. They're well-organized, and I love the way that they absorb sort of what they do is they take the offense of the other team, and as a part of their defense, they turn that into their offense. So I think that's something that see, this is the thing. RSL can't get greedy. I know they're going to try and possess the ball, but as they press forward, watch out for the counter because it's going to come.
That's just fascinating. All right, my friend. Thanks for the time. Be well. I'll let you get back to your exercise, okay?
We were talking about were we talking about soccer there?
We were.
Soccer, right?
Yeah, you may have blacked out, but it was dynamite analysis. Thanks, Gordo. The great Gordon Watson. All right, live in studios, Ryan from the Dish Professionals. If you are a sports fan and you do not have Dish, you're missing out on the platform that has everything that you need. That's number one. Football, basketball, hockey. All of our local teams play their games on Dish. Second of all, Ryan, you're missing out on a lot of promotions, correct? Let's hear about it.
You are, and this is a great opportunity with the extra incentive we're hooking up customers with today and today only. Plus, Dish has this 2-year offer, and they stacked it with 3 months free of Dish's top package. The price is guaranteed. We're going to throw in the NFL Red Zone, Paramount Plus, and Showtime free for the next 4 months. We'll get you installed for free and then throw $100 cash back to you. I'm going to actually write you a check and send it to you.
There you go. Ryan's going to write, not a personal check, but it's a check that's worth $100, period, end of story.
$100 check.
Okay, a couple of things about the platform that I can tell you as somebody who was on a different platform before I was on Dish really stand out to me. Number one, we live in a day and age of just needing streaming services, right? Like there are a few streaming services you either need or want.
Right.
The great thing about Dish is those streaming services are on the guide as if it's another channel. What that means is you don't have to hit input on your TV 3 times to get to this outlet, so you have to enter your password. You can go to Netflix or YouTube or Amazon Prime just on the guide as if it's another channel.
Yeah, they're built in. Dish upgraded their system several years ago, and it's gotten even better. Now all of the streaming apps are available, built into the system. The main ones, Amazon Prime, YouTube, Netflix, they're there, but you can add every single one. ESPN Plus, I know, is a popular one for a lot of people. Paramount Plus or Hulu, they're just right there, easy to access, and it's integrated, so you just have one remote. It's like changing a channel. So
the other thing I hadn't told you this. I went to London a few weeks ago with my family, and it was over the Ryder Cup.
Right.
So I'm at dinner in the West End of London, watching the Ryder Cup on my phone with the ability that Dish has to take it anywhere. I think it's called the Dish Anywhere app.
Yep.
And then I'm on the plane flying home, and everybody's upset that international flights don't have television. I connect to the Wi-Fi, and I'm watching the Ryder Cup on my flight home with the Dish Anywhere app.
Yeah, just that easy. And the best part about it is not only do you get your DVR access, your local regular TV channels, but also you can access the streaming through the app too. So it's all simple. It's easy, and that's what we want, is to make it simple and easy. And with the price right now, it's almost a guarantee. If you're a cable or DirecTV customer, plan on $30 to $60 a month cheaper, in some cases more. Plus, we can also help you with the internet.
So, yeah, let's talk about the internet. And if there weren't any savings on the table, Dish is a superior platform, but there are, so take advantage of the promotions. And if you don't call, you don't get the promotions. But also, if you think you're paying too much for internet, you have internet solutions. Ryan, let's hear about it.
So I've done a lot of work, and we've got a lot of different internet providers. And basically, if you call us, we can plug it into our system, lay out all the internet providers that would service your address, the price, the speed, and the best part is the price you get from us. It would be the same as the price you would get if you called them directly. So you got one phone call instead of calling around, and you get the best deal. And we'll get you set up right away and also set up a TV.
Got a call today. They will help you install, and they've got great installers that have solved ridiculous problems for me over the years. Today's the day. It's 801-424-DISH, 801-424-DISH, 801-424-3474. Ryan, you're the man.
Thanks.
All right, 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Pablo Mastroeni stops by for a quick hit. We'll do some sports court coming up. Then we'll get back to college football in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll say goodnight for Thursday night football between the Bengals and the Steelers at 6 o'clock right here on ESPN 700. Get back to the latest college football storylines coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. We do have Thursday night football on the station tonight between the Bengals and the Steelers. So stay tuned for that. But it is decision day coming up on Saturday in the world of Major League Soccer. Of course, for our local club, RSL, it's pretty simple. Win and you're in. Our next guest, you know him, you love him, the head coach of RSL. On a Thursday afternoon, Pablo Mastroeni. Pobs, how are you, man?
Happy Thursday, Spence. Doing well, bud.
Good. Appreciate the time today. So before we look forward, let's look back a little bit. You go up to Seattle, tough place to play. You're without some pieces. They're without some pieces. Cabral was awesome again. He continues to play really, really well. What did you like about the performance, and what ultimately do you believe cost you the ability to win up there at Lumen?
Yeah, well, I think we got off to a slow start. Anytime someone scores a goal in the first 4 minutes, it resets the whole mindset and has you kind of swimming for it. And I think in the next, probably 10 minutes after we conceded that goal, we were trying to get that goal back right away and kind of lost our way defensively and allowed them a lot of the ball. I think the second part of the first half, we got into the game with the ball, which is always going to be our strength. And we carried that same momentum, made a change at halftime and a couple of changes throughout the second half. And I feel like we created, again, a lot of really good, a lot of not great chances, but good enough chances to get back in the game. And the one goal we scored was offside by a hair. So, again, these games are decided by the thinnest of margins. And I think, looking forward to this next game is we just can't get behind the score sheet. We just got to be dialed in defensively, especially away from home, because, the first 10, 15 minutes, they're going to use the crowd and the energy at home to kind of get things going. And we got to be able to withstand that in a professional way to then grow into the game. Because I think at 0-0, the way that we played from, the middle of the first half on through the game, I think could have found us in a very, in a positive result in Seattle. So that's the takeaway from that game.
There was a little bit of news. Agata and Olatunji were fined for twerking, I believe. So I guess the question is, do you know how to twerk, Pablo? Are you a twerker?
No, I just found that out today.
Okay.
And to be fair, I didn't even see it, right, because the thing happened so fast. But I just saw a recap of that. I mean, it's unbelievable what we get. The guys are enjoying themselves. They scored a goal. Let them celebrate. I mean, there's crazier things than that celebration I've seen in professional sports. So, but I do not know how to twerk. My body just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I'm not a twerker either. The reason I bring it up is, that's so stupid. When I saw the news, I'm like, who in the league office has time? Reassign somebody to a different job when they're more distracted. What a waste of time and money was my reaction.
Well, listen, we've been on the wrong side of so many calls this year. I'm thinking if we invest that type of discipline and care and insight into the calls that could actually affect the scoreline of a game and the outcome of a game, I think that's where it should be, where those dollars should be allocated.
Yeah, it's so stupid. I mean, let the guys have some fun. My goodness. All right. Yeah, it's just dumb. And look, I could do an entire show on my issues with Major League Soccer. There's so many things about this league that are so maddening to me, but let's not waste our energy there. But let me ask you this. Do you bother yourself? I'm sure you know the scenarios, but how much energy do you put into, what happens if we draw? What happens if we lose? What does San Jose do? What does Dallas? How much energy do you allocate to this stuff?
No, not a lot, Spence. And again, I think for us, it's about, going out to win the game. And I think, I think you've seen this in the past. There's been times where, in tournaments where a draw will see you through. So then you tell your guys to sit back, and then you concede a goal, and then you lose the game, right? So, for me, and what we've been talking about this week is, in every phase of the game, we want to be professional, and we want to play the game using all the experiences, all the wins, all the losses, all the draws from this year, all the video recaps about how to manage games the right way, and I think we're always playing to win the game. And so if we don't have the ball, we have to defend as a group, as a collective. Whether we're up a goal, we're down a goal, it doesn't matter. We have to defend as a collective. We're not cheating until maybe the 75th minute where the last 15 minutes we're going to say, heck with it, we're throwing all caution to win. But up until that point, we're playing to really focused game of football to win the game. And then I think if we don't win and we draw, then we see where all the chips lie. But again, I think if the situation for a draw is good in the 75th minute, because all these games are being played at the same time, something in the other game might change where that draw is no longer any good. So if you're sitting there playing this game of like, oh, we're good here, and okay, now we got to step on it, then we lose sight of what we're trying to do. So the mindset for us has been one thing: we don't want to lose, we don't want to draw, and we want to win. So whether we score early and have to manage the game, or it's 0-0, or we're down a goal and we have to score, the objective is always to win the game.
Will you have anybody, because we've seen this in other sports as well, in the NBA when it's the final couple of days of the regular season, and there's a weird NBA dynamic because your wins and losses, your record affects your ability to get a better draft pick. So you'll hear stories of coaches in the NBA wanting an assistant coach to keep them up to date about other games and then deciding what to do to win or lose. Will you have anybody on the sidelines keeping you up to date about the other results that are paramount to where you guys land?
Yeah, we'll have one coach that will be watching the other games. But then again, I think for me, it's always about how to communicate that effectively when you don't have timeouts.
Yep.
Right. And the one guy that you give it to, if it's relayed to that guy in a really emotional way, and how is it going to be relayed to the whole group? And so, like, I think for us, all these things are, they're interesting, but I think it's the one sport where communication could be misconstrued or miscommunicated. Given that there's not one voice, it's going to be the telephone game to get everyone on the field on the same page. And so, like, I think the most important thing is to really think about how we have to navigate this game to win it. Because even if it's late in the game, like I said, it could be in the 85th minute. We're through with a tie, but then someone in some other game scores a goal, and now we're like, oh, now what? So now we have to push it. So, like, instead of doing all that, let's just play to win. And then obviously, if we get the information and we're tied and we have to throw caution to win, we at least know that and can manage it from a tactical perspective to throw maybe another attacker up the field to then say we're going for it, as opposed to just telling the guys to play a certain way given the scoreline, if that makes sense.
It does. Is it fair to say whatever coach you assign to watch the other games is the one whose opinion you value the least? Just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. I do believe you get Diego, Ojeda, and Gozo back from international duty, correct? You get all three back?
Yep, they're all back.
Okay. And in addition to that, is everyone more or less healthy? It's a long way of me asking you, do you have your first choice 11 at your disposal?
Yeah, I think the only one that's out is Alex Katranis with a yellow card suspension. But everyone else will be ready to go. We have a full group. And it's been strange because, obviously, we have to make some decisions for game day roster that we haven't had to make in probably many months because of injuries and suspensions and international duty. But I think this is the first weekend where, we have such a large group that we're probably going to have to, leave a player or two off the game day roster.
Okay, well, again, the task is very simple. Win and you're in, and there are some other scenarios, that we've already, talked about. Tell me about St. Louis. I don't know much about them. They have nothing to play for. They have been eliminated, but of course, they're all professionals. They're playing for pride. You're playing for the potential to get a contract or whatever the motivation is. If you're a professional athlete, you're out there doing the best you can. What makes them dangerous? What do they do well? And what's the game plan to, try to go get the result?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they're a team that are actually in a good run of form in the last 4 or 5 games. At home, they're a really tough team to play against. They have a great crowd, and they play some energized football. I think what's made them really good in the recent past has been, their players making plays like Klaus. They have another guy, Hartel, who's just banging goals from outside the box in every which foot. It doesn't matter. Like, this guy's making a lot of big plays with goals with very little XG. And so when you got hot strikers, it's always they're always dangerous. I think the way they play is very much direct. And so what they want is a lot of transition moments. And so in a game that where you have nothing to lose, it's really easy to be expansive. And you're saying, I want to trade blows like for like. So we'll open up, and hopefully you guys will open up and and we'll just trade blows. And for us, it's the opposite of that. We want controlled game. We want to make sure that whatever we do, we're moving as a block. So if we're attacking, we're attacking as a group of 10. We're defending, we're defending as a group of 10, and not let the game open up, because they're really good in transition, and that's what they're trying to elicit from their opponents. And so I think if we can, and we play these guys, so we know what they're at set pieces. They're really good at. We have to be good in set pieces. I think that for us is really just being patient, grinding them with our possession, creating goal scoring opportunities, and then getting balls in the box. And I think we've done a better job as the season's gone on of getting balls in the box and creating dangerous chances. And so we'll need to capitalize on that. And I think that's going to be the difference. If we can capitalize on our opportunities, I think defensively we've been a pretty solid team in the last 4 or 5 games. And that's another area of focus that we've placed on this week going into this game, because if we can keep it zeros, the longer the game goes zeros, home teams get frustrated. They start setting a lot of numbers forward, and I think now we have a good group of guys that can actually capitalize on the counterattack as well. So I feel really good about our preparation and getting the guys back. I think we're at full strength, and now it's just about all the lessons of the entire season culminating into this one moment where we got to win.
If I asked you just not to respond to this question with finishing chances, I know that's the biggest portion of this, but you guys have been stout defensively. You have an elite keeper. It just comes down to one thing, man. As you know, just figuring out a way to be more dangerous in the attack and finding the back of the net. And it's urgent, it's prescient, it's the final opportunity. How do we do it? How are we more dangerous up front to make sure that we're actually scoring goals, Pablo?
Well, again, I think there can't be a secret now. There's not this there's not a fairy dust that we can sprinkle. I think it's just relying on Diego Luna, on Diogo, on Gozo, and on Vic, and the guys that more than likely will be coming into the game to make plays. And so we know where we want to be. And then it becomes obviously it comes like from the decisions in the wide areas, right? The guys crossing balls in. Is it a cross to someone's feet? Is it a cutback? Is it just a ball that goes to the back post? Because, so all these things, like I'd love to tell you exactly, and this is sometimes what the players want, is they want to know exactly how we're going to score goals. But the game of soccer doesn't do that, because players on the opposing team are constantly moving. And so what we're trying to do is create exercises weekly where we're asking questions of the attacking players to make the best decision that the game gives them. And then you're relying on the individual quality of each player to be able to execute with very little time and a lot of pressure in those moments. So I think it's a culmination of all that gets us the goal. And, I think that's why in pro sports or in soccer, you pay $25 million for Son, because he will solve those problems in real time. That's what you're paying for. And for us, it's been a tough year. I think guys have really improved from an attacking perspective. We're not the finished product, but I believe that we have enough firepower to find the back of the net once or multiple times in this game.
Final question for today. It looks like it will be warm, but maybe a little rainy in St. Louis. But here's my question. We have an interesting dynamic in our market this week. BYU and Utah are playing football on Saturday night, and we've interviewed the coaches from both teams, and it will be a very intense, passionate match for you guys, just like it's going to be a very intense, passionate game for BYU and Utah. And I've asked all these coaches and players the same question about the following dynamic. How do you prepare your group for how urgent the moment is without having them become so psychotically intense that they start making mental errors? How do you find that balance?
Yeah, I think that's always the tricky one. I think I laid the template down at the beginning of the week, which is these next 4 or 5 days will dictate the way we approach the Saturday game. So it's not necessarily focusing on that game as much as it is focusing on the discipline and urgency during the week. And it's been a fantastic week of work, and I feel like that is a great. You get a great idea as to how the team's going to execute on the weekend. When sometimes they're lethargic after a 3-game week. Sometimes it was a really emotional game and they're lethargic and they just don't. The first couple of days of training aren't great. But what I've seen this week, especially coming off of a tough result in Seattle, has been bright, has been positive, has been uplifting, and the guys are pushing each other. And that, for me, like signifies that the urgency is there and the discipline and the focus is there. And once you have those three things, now it's about going to the game and just executing. So I don't want to, like, to your point, is if you start over-talking the moment and making it more emotional than it should be, then you get a performance that might be too emotional and not enough thinking or not enough operating from a place of flow. So I think it's always a tough balance to strike, but I feel like the guys have the right balance heading into tomorrow as our last training session for the week. Like today was a lot of tactical stuff, and oftentimes you can get guys that are, looking up at the ceiling or not engaged. Everyone was dialed in. Everyone was communicating. And so I think we have a good balance of that heading into this week. And then it's, when the first whistle goes, it's really about harnessing all the experiences of the year and operating from a place of flow, not overthinking, and more importantly, compete in the right way. And I think if we can compete the right way, we'll find ourselves in a favorable position to get a result.
Well, as you know, this is what it's all about. It's why you play. It's why you train. It's why you practice for the ability to be great in one moment. So travel safe, pulling for you always, and hopefully we're preparing for a playoff game next week.
Let's go, Spence. We'll get it done.
All right, Pablo Mastroianni, head coach of RSL. Pretty simple, win and you're in. If you draw, a couple things have to go your way. 7 o'clock Saturday night in St. Louis. All right, who wants to be my co-host? That's right. Who wants to come hang out in studio with me? Enter to win your turn of the mic. We'll have you in studio. We'll just chop it up about whatever you want to talk about. If you're a Ute fan, BYU fan, Jazz fan, come on in. We'll hang out. You get tickets to the Utah-Colorado game. We'll have some lunch in studio for you, and you can bring a few guests if you'd like, and $250 to spend at the Utah Red Zone store. So listen for the keywords we give you every day on the show and text them to 33986. That's 33986, all courtesy of America First, the official credit union of U of U Athletics, and the only place that you can get the Utah Athletics Visa debit card. Text FIELD right now to 33986. That's FIELD to 33986 to enter to win. My co-host today is Ryan from the Dish Pros. Hello, Ryan. How are you?
I know. I was just thinking how special it is. I'm here.
But you don't have to enter to win because you're our friend anyway.
Yes.
So text FIELD to 33986. But you're in studio today, number one, helping people save a lot of money. That's where we should start. Between TV and internet, hundreds and hundreds of dollars per month.
It really is. It's a fun business, and my favorite part is saving people money, and that's what we get to do day in and day out. But it really is up to the customer if you want to continue to overpay or do you want to upgrade, get a bigger, faster DVR, pay less money, get free programming. Dish is throwing in that 3 months free. We're throwing in Showtime and Paramount Plus free, and the NFL Red Zone for 4 months. But today and today only, just because I got lucky enough to come here, we're going to also do $100 cash back to everyone that calls and gets set up.
But you got to call really quickly. We only have a few minutes left with this offer. So it's 801-424-DISH. It's 801-424-DISH, 801-424-3474. You'll help people problem solve. You'll help people install. If they get you early enough, you can install oftentimes the next day.
Yeah, next day. If you call us now, we can get there next day, have you set up. Install's free. The price is the very best price you can get. We're the only elite premier retailer and reigning retailer of the year for Dish Network for the entire country. So you get taken care of, and we'll get you this fantastic offer. And here's the thing. Dish has the best DVR out there. It's faster, bigger. It's integrated with all the streaming. You're going to love what you get and get to pay less money.
And I keep saying this, even if you weren't saving money, if you don't have Dish and you're a sports fan, it's the best platform, period. So you combine that with the promotions, and it really is kind of a no-brainer.
It's really is. It's such a great opportunity, especially with the $100 cash back. And this is a day you want to call. And you're not going to see this anytime soon. So if you want to call and get set up with Dish, call now and let us get you set up, get you $100 cash back, price guarantee, and 3 months free.
One more thing about the internet. As I keep saying, if you think you're paying too much for it, you are. But the internet options you have don't just save money. They're also really good. It's good internet. You're not like, selling discounted internet that doesn't work.
No, we're not. And we have a lot of providers you probably don't think that we would have, namely maybe my biggest competitor. We offer theirs. We have tons of fiber options. And fiber in a lot of areas is deregulated. So if you're in an area where you're spending a ton of money on your internet and you may be able to pay a different provider, use the same fiber, but just pay less money. But you wouldn't know that unless you call us. So just call us up. We can make it simple and easy, save you money. We've got enough options that I can almost guarantee that I'll give you at least one, but probably 3 internet options if you call.
And we give you a lot of information. The best thing to do is call and ask questions, and they'll walk you through kind of their services, what they can do for you. So pick up the phone, 801-424-DISH. That's 801-424-DISH, 801-424-3474. Ryan, you're the man.
Thanks, buddy.
America First Credit Union has a really cool offer going on right now for new members. You get $100. It's a $100 new member offer if you open a share savings and checking account, and $50 for teens and new kids. That's a good new member offer as well. America First is the official credit union of U of U Athletics. So if you sign up today and support your team with the Utah Athletics Visa debit card, $100 in your pocket, $50 for your kids. And they offer very exclusive perks that you couldn't get anywhere else. Number one, special ticketing offer. As an America First member, you score exclusive tickets and prices to Utah sporting events on Ticketmaster.com. Don't deal with that secondary ticket market. Then this is probably my favorite. You get early game day entry where you can beat the crowd and get into Rice-Eccles Stadium up to 2 hours prior to kickoff. That's 30 minutes sooner than the general public. All you have to do is show a valid ticket and your America First debit card to the security officers at Gate L in the southeast corner. So get some free money, get some perks if you're a Utah fan with our friends at America First Credit Union. You can go to americafirst.com/deals for more information. We'll do a little sports court coming up next. Then we're back to college football in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll say goodnight at 6 on ESPN 700. It is Sports Court time. We do it every Thursday, right about now, with our good friends Garrett and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. Gentlemen, happy Thursday. How are we doing today?
Hey, Spence. How you doing?
Hi, Spence.
All good here. Appreciate your time as always. Let's get right into it. So we often talk about NIL on the college level. Well, now we're talking about it on the high school level, as a five-star Ohio State commit and his mother have filed a lawsuit to have NIL deals be available to high school kids. This felt inevitable. Give us the latest.
Yes, Spence, just a matter of time. You know, we've talked a lot about the O'Bannon case and the Alston case, which are the ones that primarily opened up the NIL deal for athletes, amateur athletes, to profit from their name, image, and likeness. Well, it wasn't just limited to college athletes, but there are 6 states who have administrative rules, let's call them laws, in place that don't allow high school athletes to profit from their name, image, and likeness. So enter our guy Jameer Brown, who's a 5-star wide receiver from the state of Ohio. He's an Ohio State commit, and the state of Ohio is one of the states that doesn't allow this type of NIL deals for high school athletes. So his mother, on his behalf, has sued the state of Ohio and the Ohio High School Athletic Association, claiming, I mean, it's interesting, the claim really is that it's just not fair. They're saying, hey, there's other states allow us. They say a blanket ban not only singles out Ohio's high school athletes, but it's unequal treatment. It's unlawfully suppresses their economic liberties, freedom, and expression. I'm kind of surprised they didn't do the, some of the same arguments that applied in O'Bannon and in Alston, some antitrust arguments. Well, they're going along here, and they've filed this lawsuit, and in response, the High School Athletic Association of Ohio has looked at this and said, hey, we knew this was coming, and there's a potential vote on a referendum, and even they've said, there's a potential emergency vote for the referendum to, allow these kids to profit from their name, image, and likeness. One interesting thing I read that even though Jameer is a Ohio State commit, he's going to make a little visit to Notre Dame. So maybe those folks at the Ohio Athletic Association are going to want to get this referendum in place and allow him to profit from his name, image, and likeness.
All right, Garrett, what do you got, buddy?
Well, I guess, Utah's not one of those 6 states that prohibits it. It just hasn't, we haven't really seen that be an issue here. But it certainly, certainly is available to the high school students here. They're under some parameters. I mean, they can't wear the insignias or badges or whatever on their high school uniforms. But, there's some rules in place here, too.
Did not have Logan Paul versus Lionel Messi on my bingo card today, gentlemen, but that's where we're at. This is an interesting story. Unpack it for us.
Yeah, this is a heavyweight bout of sorts, I guess. This all comes out of the hydration beverage industry, which is big money, right? I mean, and so Logan Paul, of course, has Prime. And Messi's got a new, it's called Moss Hydration, Moss Plus Next Generation Beverage Company. And so what happened is Logan Paul has brought it's a false advertising case against Messi and his, quote-unquote beverage company, and brought this in Florida under Florida's Deceptive Trade Practices Act. Basically, it's like a false advertising case. And so what they've said, Messi gets on the ad, and he talks about how he, searched high and low, whatever, through the Andes and in Argentina or whatever, and found this amazing drink, this sports drink, and it's going to make you a great player just like he is, and on and on and on, and just about his involvement. Well, the other part of the story is there's a previous lawsuit going on in New York from where Messi's company has sued Prime, arguing that Prime has a monopoly in the marketplace on design components and other things for these sports drinks. And so I think a little bit of this is probably some, tit for tat, a little retaliation going on because they just feel like
in his statements in the New York case, I mean, this is really what it comes down to. In Messi's statements under oath in the New York case, he basically said, yeah, I don't really know much about the drink. I didn't have a lot of input or involvement. I didn't pick out the packaging. I didn't pick out the design. I didn't do anything like that. But in the ad in Florida, he sure makes it sound like he was, involved in every process in producing this drink. And so they brought the claim, and this is a battle between in the hydration beverage industry.
All right, Preston, you're up, buddy. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times these false advertising things are brought by consumers because the product doesn't deliver or qualify for what it says. But this is a competitor against competitor trying to do this. I often, sometimes when stuff like this happens, I think, how would you prove it? Messi could say, well, I was consulted on this and I was informed about this. I wasn't necessarily in the lab with my goggles on, but I knew about all this and I approved it. But and Garrett mentioned that there's a little fight going on where they're claiming that they copied their bottles. And so now Messi's group's going looking for a declaratory judgment on that, claiming anti-competitiveness.
Kind of an interesting one here, as the Falcons were being sued by an ex-player, but it's workers' comp in California, if I'm seeing this right. What's going on with this one?
Yeah, Spence, I learned something on this, and I think this is a really I think it's an interesting case. I've often wondered about this, but we've got a guy, Wayne Gandy, who played for 15 years in the NFL. He played for 5 teams. Most of it was with the Atlanta Falcons. I think he was actually drafted by the Rams in California. Well, he brought a workers' comp claim against all the 5 teams he played for in the state of California. So a little background, we kind of understand this area a bit. People file workers' comp claims all the time. And that, what it essentially is, it says if you are injured on the job in the course and scope of your employment, like if you're a construction worker and fall off a ladder, or if you're down at Broadway Media and you're running up the stairs and fall and trip and hurt yourself, you can file a workers' comp claim because you are on the job and in the course and scope of your employment. And I've often wondered about this because, athletes are getting hurt all of the time, essentially on the job, working for their employer, but you don't hear much about it. So Wayne Gandy has done this, and he's filed a claim with the Workers' Comp Board. And the Workers' Comp Board, essentially, he basically said, hey, wear and tear, cumulative injuries over time, I'm entitled to workers' comp benefits. Well, apparently some of these cases do succeed, and the California laws are pretty liberal towards it, but they kind of came down on the side of the Atlanta Falcons, and I don't know what happened with the other teams, but they came down on the side of the Atlanta Falcons, basically saying there's a formula we run that basically says you have to have been employed or played 20% of your games in the state of California, and they ran a formula that Wayne Gandy, he played some games in California while playing for the Rams and playing against the Rams and California teams, but it amounted to about 7% of his games played there. So the claims against the Atlanta Falcons, the Falcons brought it to the appellate court, and the appellate court agreed with the Falcons and said, no, you're not on the hook for this, for his workers' comp claims. But I think it's really interesting if athletes are actually making workers' comp claims, maybe lifetime of benefits for this type of stuff because they're on the job and getting hurt. I thought the unions probably disqualified it or exempted it, but I guess not. I'm learning something.
What do you got, Garrett?
Well, he brought the case in California really specifically. I mean, this is forum shopping at its best, right? Because California had a favorable law, and they did change their work comp law in 2013 and specifically address this issue about cumulative injuries sustained by pro athletes. So that's why I brought it in California, but the court wasn't going to make the Atlanta Falcons, where he mostly played, subject to California law.
Let's move over to the portion of the program where 3 white guys talk hip-hop. We got Drake, Kendrick Lamar. Okay, the latest with the Drake-Kendrick Lamar situation. What do we got?
Yeah, as far as I know, this is the first time a rap battle has been decided in the courts by a judge. But this goes back to the last Super Bowl where Kendrick Lamar did the halftime show, his "Not Like Us" song, and is part of the the diss tracks back and forth. I know you follow it very closely, Spence,
for sure.
Between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And so these diss tracks go back and forth. And, Kendrick Lamar makes some claims in here about Drake, essentially calling him a pedophile. And Drake didn't like that, as you can imagine, and so he brought a lawsuit. But he didn't sue Kendrick Lamar directly. Instead, he sued the record label that they happen to both belong to, saying, "Hey, you guys shouldn't have published this music and let it out, for everybody to hear." So the judge basically, long story short, has ruled that these statements in songs, especially in a diss track, that these are just opinions. These aren't statements of fact, and this isn't the basis for a defamation case. And so, Drake's case has been dismissed, and I think the NFL probably breathes a bit of a sigh of relief to not get dragged into this, which they could have been, right, had the case gone on, because of the NFL having some oversight about the halftime entertainment and any content that's during that halftime show. So, case is over. There you go. Rap battle. It's just an opinion.
All right, Preston. Okay, your turn to take a crack at this one.
Garrett jumped on it pretty well. I think it interesting. The court came out and said, under the First Amendment, there is no such thing as a false idea. And, we know that we've talked about defamation a lot on the sports court, where it has to be a statement, a false statement, either verbal or written, stated for fact, as fact, and then it causes harm or injury. My guess is now that Drake's lost, and my son's had to kind of educate me this at the Super Bowl because I knew nothing about it, but my bet is his win is going to be come out with another song who says a few things. That's going to be his response and his attack on this.
All right, final one for today, and a lot of people very interested in this one. Utah BYU week breeds oftentimes poor behavior. This is probably the first time that we've had literal death threats when it comes to a man who went online and BYU fan apparently threatening to shoot anybody down there who was wearing red. Well, he's now been arrested. Thank goodness. What can you share?
Well, you nailed it. Thank goodness for social media. And you said presumptively a BYU fan. I don't think BYU is going to claim this guy at all. But as you mentioned on social media, the claims were anyone wearing red on Saturday is getting shot. Not laughable. Come to Lavelle Edwards Stadium and enjoy a bullet in your head. Bring your kids too. I mean, what they claim is he was arrested, suspicion of threats of violence and obstruction of justice. Arrested, not charged yet. We'll see if this results in actual charges. But this took it to another level, over the top. The rivalry is heated, but this is over the top.
Sure is, Garrett. Final word is yours.
Let's just simmer down there, fans, right? Let's have a good weekend.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's the hope. All right, before I set you guys loose, for any of our listeners who have legal questions, how can they get a hold of you over at Handy and Handy?
Yes, Spence, we'd love to hear from any of the listeners out there. We love coming on here with you and talking about these legal issues in the world of sports, really interesting issues. But Handy and Handy is a personal injury law firm. We help people that have been involved in all kinds of accidents. Love to hear from you. Call us at 801-264-6677. We'll help you out with your case. You can jump on our website at handylawutah.com. You can learn about us there.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great weekend. Of course, as always, go Utes.
Go Utes.
Go Utes.
Garrett and Preston Handy, law firm of Handy and Handy. Great guys. Give them a call if you have any legal questions. Call Ryan from the Dish Pros if you are a sports fan without Dish. Because if you don't have Dish and you're a sports fan, you're just missing out. It's the best platform, period, end of story. And, of course, Ryan, today we are saving people a ton of money, bottom line.
We are, and we've got a great promotion. And, in honor of Rivalry Week and being here with you, Spence, I got an additional $100 cash back that we're throwing in. So this is your opportunity. If you've been waiting to make the switch, or maybe you just saw that bill. You saw that your DirecTV bill went up 10%, or your cable bill is getting larger and larger. You're not getting anything more for it. Call us up. Let's get you set up with Dish's top package. It's pretty much all the channels, over 440 channels, free for the first 3 months. You'll get a 2-year promotional price that's guaranteed not to change for the next 2 years. Showtime, Paramount Plus, NFL Red Zone free for 4 months, and the $100 on cash back, plus getting the best price guarantee. It's not been a better time. Today is the day. Pick up the phone and call us.
Yeah, 2-year price lock is huge because the other platform raises their prices all the time without giving you anything. 3 months free speaks for itself. And if you call today, it's an extra $100 on top of it. And then you install, and you'll help people get set up as early as the next day if they get you early enough, right?
Right. We do the whole process. So we'll set you up, get you the best price. Our techs will come out and have you installed. Call us today. I can probably get you installed tomorrow, and you get the biggest, fastest DVR out there that auto records your games, auto records the locals, auto hops commercials, and you get to pay less money.
From a local sports fan perspective, you have to understand that this is the only platform where you get everything you need. It's not just Utah BYU football. It's NFL. It's NBA. It's Jazz basketball. The Mammoth, their home openers last night. You get all the hockey as well. And then I know you're thinking, well, what about my streaming services? Well, the nice thing about the Dish setup, Ryan, is you can put the main streaming services on the guide as if they're just another channel. So you don't have to hit input 3 times and enter your information. It's the only one where you actually have the streaming services on the guide as if it's a channel.
Yeah, it's neat how Dish has done that. They've integrated the whole both sides of the TV system, if you may, where you've got the traditional TV and the streaming, and we get it. I mean, I stream. Everybody has some kind of streaming app, so having it integrated where you're not switching inputs, you're just holding one remote. You can manage through all your TV solutions, and the idea is to get you the best price and get you the best system, and we can do that. You
also have options for people that are paying too much for internet, and if you think you're paying too much for internet, you are. So talk about the options you have, and also, you know, as far as switching over from internet, yes, it's cheaper, but it's still the same quality, if not better.
Yeah, the internet is super competitive in northern Utah. So listen, if you're unhappy with your existing internet, spending more than $70 a month, even if you have fiber and you're thinking, I've already got the best out there, I can't get any better, there's a possibility you can just pay a different company to use the same fiber and pay less money. It's just that easy. But you won't know unless you pick up the phone and just call us. Let us do our work. Let us get you the best deal. We'll get you the best price guaranteed on both Dish and with internet, and $100 cash back if you call today.
Got to call right now, though. Give you a lot of information. Just dial the number, ask questions. They'll let you know what they can do for you. It's 801-424-DISH, 801-424-DISH, 801-424-3474. Ryan, you're the man.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. 5 o'clock hour of the program features Danny Cannell. We'll say goodnight at 6 right here on ESPN 700. All right, Drive at 5 time, Thursday afternoon style, 3 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. It's been a cold day. It was chilly this morning, about 38 degrees and rainy. As we sit here today, it's about 52 degrees and cloudy here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. No more rain expected today or tomorrow, and the weekend actually looks pretty good. The forecast for Utah BYU down in Provo is about 60 degrees at kick with no rain expected. We're going to get up to 70 degrees coming up on Sunday, and the forecast next week looks pretty good. Happy Thursday to you. We are one step closer to Utah BYU and really excited for the game. Want to remind you, our programming schedule that day will be Porter, Larson, Trevor, Riley starting pregame early, an hour earlier than usual. They will get going at 1 o'clock from Bout Time Pub and Grub down to the Vineyard. So if you're looking for a place to do a little pregame action before you drive down to Provo, stop by Bout Time Pub and Grub and say what's up to Porter and say what's up to Trev to get ready for the game, which will kick off at 6 o'clock. Of course, Bill Riley, Stevenson, Sylvester, and Scott Mitchell will have the call for you. Sly stopped by earlier today, and our guy is juiced for this week, as I feel like most everybody is. We did have a little bit of movement on the line, which we hadn't had prior to today. So it's slight movement. It's not anything all that noteworthy, but Utah has been a 3.5-point favorite all week long. And about an hour and a half ago, some money came in on BYU. And so the line as we sit here today, most sportsbook has Utah now favored by 3. Still a couple of sportsbooks where you can get 3.5. I'll just repeat what I said earlier. I would not touch this game. And honestly, I don't really care what the line would be. If you're familiar with Utah BYU, the history of this rivalry game, and certainly the modern day history of this rivalry game, you know, that was me drinking water, 3.5 hours of radio. You know that something crazy is probably going to go down to decide this game. Turnover, special teams play, blocked kick, bad penalty call like Utah had last year that led to that game-winning drive for BYU. But should be a fun one. The injury reports were released today, and if you're a BYU fan, you got some good news because Jack Kelly was not on the list. Jack Kelly is a full clear to go, ready to go. Now, last week, Jack almost played against Arizona, but I'm sure Jay Hill wanted Jack Kelly as healthy as possible for the Utah game coming up on Saturday. So Jack Kelly is going to play. No new injury news for Utah, as Coach Witt, who joined the show yesterday. And I'll remind you, if you missed that interview for Coach Witt, we also had Aaron Roderick on the show yesterday. You can always go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. And during his media availability, Coach Witt referenced that they came out of the Arizona State game as healthy as you can expect, 7 weeks, 7 games into a college football season. And that's really what you want. You want these two teams at full strength. You want to see exactly what sort of hand we've been dealt. You want to see a good football game down in Provo on Saturday night at 6 o'clock, which is what I think we are going to get. As I've said all week long, and I'll continue to maintain, the one thing that would stun me is a blowout. The one thing that would catch me off guard if either of these teams pulled away from the other. I just don't really see that happening. The data indicates as much. The numbers indicate as much that we are in for and should be in for a really fun game coming up on Saturday night. So Penn State moves on from James Franklin, and one of the targets and candidates, according to a number of reports, of course, Curt Cignetti, who's done an unbelievable job at the University of Indiana. Well, as this game is played, Coach Cignetti was able to parlay those rumors into a new 8-year, $93 million contract. And Curt Cignetti is now one of the top 5 highest-paid coaches in the world of college football. Of course, they went to Autzen and beat Oregon and kind of announced themselves as a legitimate national contending team. The Utah Mammoth opened up their home slate last night with a win that had a little bit of everything. 3-1 was your final. Calgary took a 1-0 lead. The Mammoth came back and won. There was a fight. Looked like a good time at the brand new Delta Center. The Utah Jazz will finish their preseason action tonight against Portland. And then next Wednesday, it's time for pro basketball as the LA Clippers will be in town. For RSL, it's very simple. It's a win and you're in scenario. Saturday, 7 o'clock in St. Louis. A few scenarios on the table that if RSL draws and certain things go their way, they'll be able To qualify for the postseason, Pablo Mastroianni stopped by our show earlier today. For you RSL fans, check out the website. All right, coming up on the other side, one of my favorite college football voices, Danny Cannell, will join us to break down Utah BYU. We'll talk about the Cignetti news and kind of go around the table with Danny coming up. But Ryan from the Dish Bros stops by. Bottom line, if you're a sports fan and you don't have Dish, you're doing it wrong. Even if we couldn't save you money, you should switch to Dish anyway. But, Ryan, the good news is we can switch people to Dish and save them a ton of cash.
We can. And, in honor of Rivalry Week and also being here with you, Spence, I've got a little extra cash on top of that we're going to throw in. $100 cash back for new customers that get set up with Dish. Plus, we're going to dial you up on this extra promotion. Guys, Dish's top package. It's over 440 channels. This offer was essentially worth $450 roughly. Get set up, get that 3 months free, plus the 2-year promotion, 2-year price guarantee. We're going to throw in the NFL Red Zone, Paramount Plus, and Showtime free for the next 4 months. This is a neat opportunity to lower your bill, upgrade your system, get the best DVR out there. And guys, Dish will auto record the games for you. And this weekend, it's on prime time anytime, so it'll auto record that, auto hop the commercials.
One of my favorite features, because if you forget to record a game, you come home and it's still there. It has saved my bacon a bunch of different times. If you're a local sports fan and you're sick of switching over to this streaming service, to that platform, to this or whatever to try to find the games, you're missing out because it's all right here, whether it's college football, the NFL, the Utah Jazz, Major League Baseball playoffs, hockey has now started as well. And then $100 cash back, but you have to call today. 3 months where it's free and 2 years where your price doesn't change. And if you have used the other guys, they change their prices all the time. Installation, same day install, next day install, depending on when they get a hold of you.
Yeah, I mean, we can do same day sometimes, but definitely we can get you taken care of tomorrow. I still have another spot left, so if you call right now, I can have my tech out there tomorrow, get you $100 cash back, get you the best system out there, 3 months free, and a price guarantee. This is your opportunity. You want to pick up the phone and just call 424-DISH.
Bottom line, if you want to save money, do you like money? If your answer is yes, then pick up the phone and call. Additionally, we can save people money on their internet. Let's talk about that, Ryan.
Yeah, and everybody loves money. I mean, I think the thing is a lot of times is it's a change. It's hard work, guys. It's an easy thing. Listen, if your internet's slow, your TV's costing too much, your internet's costing too much, just call us up. I've got a ton of internet providers now, from cable to fiber, you name it. We have all of them underneath our wing now, and the price you get from us is the best price possible. But we've done all the work. So you call us up, we'll lay out all the internet providers that are available. We make it easy on you, so when you do make the switch, all your internet connected devices will just work. You're just going to pay less money and have better service. Call today, get that $100 cash back. Let's put some money back in your pocket for a first time instead of giving it away to everybody else.
There you go. Holidays coming up. You can save some cash for Christmas, put some presents under the tree, put food back on the table. You'll save a bunch of money, but you have to call today. It's 801-424-DISH, 801-424-DISH, 801-424-3474. Ryan, you're the man.
Been great. Thanks, Spence.
Danny Cannell joins us coming up next right here on ESPN 700. Desperate times call for desperate measures, Porter. You understand?
I do. I'm not sure exactly
well,
what brings it up, but
I know listeners of this program, first of all, hello, how are you? Thank you for tuning in.
Yes, please.
Are very curious about my fantasy football lineup.
Oh, right.
I feel like everybody wants me to talk more about my fantasy football team. I do not feel that way.
I think that's the consensus, like regionally, not even just in the market.
Yeah, I should really just lean into it and only do 4 hours every day about my current fantasy football situation. But I will not because other things are going on. Fact of the matter is, it's been a rough year for your guy, okay, for a few different reasons. We played a 2-quarterback league. Joe Burrow, 1 quarterback, obviously gone for most of the year. And then I've been starting whoever starts for the Niners, Brock Purdy, Mac Jones. That's not gone great. So tonight, I have decided to bench whoever starts for the Niners, and my second quarterback starting tonight is Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
I'm starting Aaron Rodgers against the Cincinnati Bengals defense.
Why not? I don't know that he's going to score you like a ton of fantasy points, but he's going to put the ball in the air. He's going to sling it around. You could do worse. I don't know if you're going to have him on your fantasy roster the whole year. That's part of the conversation when your quarterback is 40-some-odd years old. But, hey, why not?
We are concerned about Aaron's leadership in the locker room. We'll probably have to let him go at some point if he wants to do ayahuasca. But, wide receivers, Malik Neighbors, Tyreek Hill,
right,
gone. Omarion Hampton, one of my running backs, gone. So we need to shake it up. We're sending a message to the group tonight, and we're going to bring in Aaron for a 1-game test, but we might have to let him go next week.
Next man up, man. Next man up.
That's how we roll. So Thursday Night Football tonight, it will be the Bengals and the Steelers. But, of course, high speed ahead to Saturday as the Utes and the Cougars will kick off at 6 o'clock. Porter's pregame coverage will begin at 1. Jack Kelly news is sizable. Feels like that's a big deal, right? The injury report came out today, and Jack's going to play. I suppose the question could be asked, how healthy is he? BYU's got 2 really good linebackers. Obviously, Jack Kelly, one of them.
Yeah, it's big news in a lot of fronts. I think that if you were reading the tea leaves a little bit, you kind of knew he was going to play just based on last week. The word was, if that had been a late season conference title type matchup, Jack Kelly would have been on the field. And, of course, when you have Utah on the back burner, you never look ahead, but your staff can, right? Some of your health folks, your training staff, they opted to keep him on ice last week, knowing that they had a really big matchup. And not only a really big matchup, but a matchup in which the linebackers would be relied on heavily against Utah, right? A team that runs the ball a lot, both with the quarterback and the backfield, and lean on the tight ends. You're going to need your linebackers. BYU has some of the best in the country. And, getting them back and healthy, at least somewhat healthy, for this game is huge news. I think that line, as we've talked about, is going to stay close and should stay close, but that's a big benefit for BYU.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this is the reason why, but I will tell you about an hour and a half after that news came down, the line moved towards BYU. Yeah. Now, only half a point, but Utah's a 3-point favorite right now. Prior to that news, they were 3.5-point favorite. So there's that.
And we've talked about it. Those are the reasons you see the line move, right? We talked about it with Cam Rising last year. That's real movement there. Half a point, 0, whatever it is. If the line's moving, there's material news to be had. That means Jack Kelly's going to play, and that means he's probably not hobbled too much. They think he's at least going to be productive.
There you go. So, of course, tomorrow is Christmas Eve for a lot of college football fans around here. It will be our final show of the week before Saturday's game, so we will give you our predictions. Porter, what should our listeners know about what comes their way on a Friday edition of the show?
Hey, how about E-Dub, Eric Weddle,
nice, on
a Friday? Of course, one of the best guys to talk to on a rivalry Friday. Roxy Bernstein is going to join the program. We'll talk Holy War. We'll talk rivalry game with Roxy, but He's also in town for hockey. He's calling some
Nice.
Mammoth hockey, and he'll be would be on site with us, but you're going to be out on remote. So Roxy will stop by ahead of his call on the ice. Sam Bruckhouse for his weekly hit with our friends at Sumer Sports. Our guy Robert Rojo Johnson will stop by, our former Ute, and Paul Pugmire, of course, talking golf as we do each and every week on the Utah Golf Radio Update. And hey, maybe Steve Young, maybe some other former Utes. We've got a whole bunch of feelers out for some guys that are more than welcome to stop by and talk some trash ahead of the rivalry game.
Over the course of about 20 years in this business, in this market, I have tried to book Steve Young a number of different times, and the hit rate is about 10%. So if that comes down, of course, it will be a lot of fun. But if not, we'll have a good show anyway to get you guys ready for Utah BYU football.
Hey, now you know what being a producer's like.
Oh, no, believe me, I very much know. For a number of years, I had to wear both hats. It's a big-time blessing that you carry the majority of that water. So thank you for that.
But hey, unanswered texts are nothing new. Not in this business.
Part of the deal. Special thank you, Stevenson Sylvester, Danny Cannell, Gordon Monson, Pablo Mastroeni, our friends from Sports Court as well. For any of the sound that you missed, go to the website, ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app and take us on the go. That ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store for free. And then finally, for what we do in our space every single afternoon for 4 hours, check out our podcast page. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments, and give us all the stars. It helps. Reporter, I'm Spence saying good night. Have a great Thursday evening. Enjoy some Thursday night NFL football. And we'll talk to you on a Friday show. And as always, you can find that right here on ESPN 700.